Chapter 1100. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were given a fright when they realized what their opponent was going to use. It turned out to be the leftover waste from Japan and the southwestern countries that had been used for wet alchemy. In smelting, besides cold forging, one would generally use decomposition and replacement to get out what was needed. The most common method was to heat it up, and this process would inevitably produce a lot of used water and gas. In truth, used things could not be called waste, but it was not cost-effective to extract and decompose useful things from them, so they would all be disposed of. The Great Tang was currently using a local metallurgy method, as well as a technical idea provided by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. During the replacement process, the heat would be used to replace what was being replaced, and the gas would be replaced. A lot of waste gas would be produced, most of which was poisonous. The two of them had no good idea about this, and this was not their time. As long as they were willing to invest money in the treatment of waste gas and waste water, they could minimize the harm. Now was not the right time. It was still far from that level, but they could not stop refining. They could only try to open the factory in remote places, such as the northern part of Hebei province, or places near Tubo, southwest, and other countries. Hunan province would never agree, and neither would Jiangxi province, including the Yellow River and the Yangtze River. The two of them were well aware that it was most convenient to drain wastewater from these two rivers and their tributaries. But the two of them would definitely not do something that would cause them to be criticized by future generations. They would rather spend even more transportation costs to carry out polluting operations in important areas. If not for the great leap forward development, the construction of railroads, and the manufacture of weapons, the two of them would not have wanted to build so many factories with low individual output. Once the railroads were finished, the areas around the factories that vented and drained air would probably be scrapped and left behind. When the technology improved and the population increased, they would have to spend more money on management when they needed to move there. At that time, the money spent on management would be many times more valuable than the products directly produced by the factories. But there was nothing they could do about it. Moreover, the value of the products produced by the factories could not be estimated so simply. They also had to consider the economic value that the products would bring to the country, and this value would definitely exceed the cost of management. However, the Yellow River and Yangtze River basins were no good. It was not only a matter of money, but also a matter of people's health. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had already thought about it. When the railway was completed, they would close the factory and move it overseas. It would only increase the cost of transportation, but the cost of production would be lower. The labor outside was not worth much. They would give out a few kilograms of sorghum rice and highland barley, and people from other places would be more than willing to work for a few days. In the Great Tang, the people of the Great Tang would never be willing to do such a thing. Only when the imperial court and the Zhang clan had ordered them to do so would the people be willing to do such a thing. At that time, the demands would be even lower, as long as they didn't starve to death. Because this was a moment of life and death for the Great Tang. The current situation was that the Great Tang would refine a portion of it itself, while the small countries of the southwest would send a portion over through the waterways, as well as Japan. Their country, the Great Tang, had not given them the advanced technology. They were still using their own methods to refine the products, producing a lot of waste gas and water. They had probably also discovered that the places where the waste gas landed and where the waste water flowed through had a large effect on crops. Even people and livestock were prone to diseases. Thus, someone thought of collecting the waste water, drying it under the sun, transporting it back to the Great Tang, and dumping it into lakes or rivers. You can't blame them for coming up with such a bad idea. They're being exploited too severely. When the dried sea products from Japan enter the port, they have to pay a large sum of money, and the grain from the small countries of the southwest is the same. When they return from the Great Tang to exchange for luxury goods, the price is extremely high. The Great Tang only recognizes the Great Tang's currency, and this is the simplest form of exploitation. This is especially true for medicines, which are packaged in glass. They still have to pay an exorbitant price for the glass. It's not easy. After saying these harsh words, Zhang Xiaobao turned to Wang Wan and the 4 people who had come to deliver the news. But the 4 of them didn't believe him. In their eyes, young Master Xiaobao was an existence akin to a devil. He would never cry when dealing with others, unless he transformed into a crocodile. As for Wang Wan acted like she had been enlightened by Buddha, the Jade Emperor, the Lord, or the Holy Sun, and agreed. That's right, I also feel it. Because their smelting skills are lacking, the finished products they make can only be considered half-finished products. We still have to do some processing before we can use them, so the price is very low. Their lives are truly difficult. Thus, we'll first take care of Japan this year. We have to help the small countries of the Southwest. We can't just watch them suffer and do nothing. Once they've compensated us for our losses, we'll give them a similar chance to compete. That is, after all their hard work, they'll also receive the Great Tang's money. The 4 people who had come to deliver the news were confused. They carefully examined their little wife and little young master to see if they had been possessed by something. Their words didn't sound like the original people they were. I agree. The compensation is very simple. Give us all the places with jade. Give us all the places with good weather and suitable for growing rice. Give us all the places with other mineral resources. Give us all the places that can be built into important ports. Give us all the places with important water transport. Let's say all the places first. We'll add the rest later. Zhang Xiaobao thought of the problem of compensation. The enemy's actions this time have inflicted unimaginable losses on the Great Tang, leaving a wound that can never be healed. Our hearts have also been greatly wounded, coupled with the fact that our Great Tang has lost so many people because of their instigation. Even if our Great Tang loves peace, we cannot remain silent. Hearing the little young master's words, the 4 people who had come to deliver the news breathed a sigh of relief. The stars were still the same stars, the moon was still the same moon, and the little young master was still the little young master. Nothing had changed. Wang Wan revealed a bodhisattva smile. Xiaobao, we both have the same idea. That's our plan. But after we accept the compensation, we will still help them. As I said before, we will help them occupy the mines and let them mine and refine them. We will give them money from the Great Tang. If they are paid the equivalent of 2 caddies of grain in a day, we will pay them twice the amount of money in Great Tang to buy 4 caddies of grain in a day. Bullying people is not our intention, but helping people is our dream. When the 4 of them heard this, they felt that Lady Cuckoo had been possessed. They were well aware that the amount of money given to the Great Tang was nothing to the Great Tang people. That was the kind of money given to the Great Tang when a child went over to help with a small matter, or the allowance given to the elderly who could no longer work by the government. Comparing the two, the Great Tang had the advantage. But every place had its own rules. The people of other places were not from the Great Tang, so why give them all benefits? One of them mustered up his courage and questioned. Little girl, the money of the Great Tang is like this. For example, 1 copper coin can buy 3 caddies of rice locally. But the 3 caddies of rice can't be sold for 1 copper coin in the Great Tang. 5 caddies of rice are also priceless. If we give them the same amount of money, they will still make a profit. In private, the rich people of the Great Tang will charge us a high price and buy good things in the Great Tang. I think it's unnecessary. Are you questioning me? Wang Wan turned her head and asked. I am objecting. The person broke out in cold sweat, but he still gritted his teeth and admitted it. Very good, your courage is commendable. However, the method is wrong. You shouldn't have objected directly. You should have asked me and Xiaobao why we did this. Don't do it again. Wang Wan didn't plan to do anything to this person. As long as the people of her family listened to her orders and didn't scold her, everything was fine. Sometimes, being able to object was also an advantage. If the people couldn't do it, then they would know. But this person in front of her was too arbitrary, so she gave him a reminder. Yes, this little one knows his mistake. Little girl, what is your purpose in doing this? The other side readily followed her advice and immediately asked. Xiaobao, you speak. I'm going to clean up the river snails that were thrown up. Wang Wan gave this task to Zhang Xiaobao while she went to find a basket to pick up the river snails that her younger brothers and sisters had thrown over. In truth, I can also go and pick them up. After saying this, Zhang Xiaobao turned to the person who had asked the question. It's very simple. It's because we don't have the time to fight them. Our target is the Northwest Duoshire. Duoshire also participated this time, so we're not prepared to accept any compensation or apology from them. To tell the truth, I don't hate them for coming to make trouble. Without them, Cuckoo and I would never have been able to discover the undercurrent hidden beneath the harmonious facade. There are still many things that we haven't noticed. The people of the Great Tang aren't very clear about their position either. It's better for problems to appear early than to explode at the end. They've already done very well, but they were too greedy. They just needed to bring the goods over and dump them in the river. Now that we've caught them, they won't have a chance to dump the goods from upstream again. Idiots. It's idiots. This little one believes that they feel that it's not worth it to invest so much manpower and resources if they don't do something heaven-shaking. Little young master, you mean to say that we should first calm them down, give them benefits, and then beat them up after we're done with Duoshire? The person who had asked the question earlier asked. No, after we're done with Duoshire, we probably won't need to fight them anymore. We'll give them money and make them lose confidence in their own currency. We'll recruit a lot of local workers. Their power class and wealthy families will use their own country's currency to exchange for money from their hands. We'll increase the number of times that Great Tang's merchant ships trade with their ports and send a large amount of goods from the Great Tang. The land route isn't easy to travel, so the water route is much more convenient. When the time comes, there will be one consequence, and that is that their currency will rapidly depreciate. With the depreciation of the currency, their purchasing power will fall, and the people's hearts will be shaken. While we're fighting Duoshire, we'll have their various local powers struggle for power. When the time comes, we'll only be paying a small amount of luxury goods and relatively more advanced technology, while they'll have to pay the price of their lives. Cuckoo and I will lead the main force of the Great Tang to fight outside, and we'll be driving the tiger to fight the wolf. Wrong. It should be called driving the wolf to fight the dog. The lives of the Great Tang are valuable, and it's better than us personally fighting them, understand? Zhang Xiaobao was in a good mood today, so he exchanged a few more words with someone from the intelligence department. Brilliant, really brilliant. Little young master is really amazing. The person who asked the question got a reply. In fact, he still didn't understand what was going on, but it didn't affect his judgment, and he still praised him. Thank you. Zhang Xiaobao didn't stand on ceremony and left the person's words of praise behind. Then he said to the four people, "There's some work in your eyes. Go and help to pick up the river snails. You don't have to go anywhere else tonight. You can eat supper here and help to keep watch." The four people hesitated and ran over to help. They didn't want to disturb the family coming out to play, but they couldn't bear to leave. In a situation where there was no mission, it was good to be close to the main family. Moreover, they could eat the food personally cooked by the little young master. No matter how it tasted, it was a blessing to eat it. The 9 children weren't afraid of being disturbed, and they didn't worry that the food they picked up wasn't enough to eat, so they did things for others for free. For them, their ability to eat the food they picked up was a kind of praise and recognition. Seeing that there were 4 more people, they picked up the river snails faster. Their actions shocked the people on the shore who were responsible for picking up the river snails. One of them went down in his clothes to see how deep the water was. However, when he walked 5 steps from the shallow part of the shore into the water, he disappeared with a splash. After a few seconds, he popped his head out, grabbed a few river snails in one hand, and shouted to the other 3 colleagues on the shore. "It's deep, at least 3.5 meters. Little young master and little young lady have worked hard." The 3 nodded together. They were good at swimming. After jumping in and paddling a few times, they could pick up the river snails. However, they couldn't stand it if they did it too many times. Moreover, they were much taller than Xiaobei and the others. Xiaobei had 9 children, so they had to paddle down 2 of their own height before they could touch the bottom. However, from the top, the frequency of them going up and down was very fast. Just as the 4 people were sighing at how good the children were at swimming, the surface of the originally calm pool suddenly churned, and the 9 children all disappeared. The 4 people were shocked. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had already rushed toward the pool. Wang Wan jumped in first, and Zhang Xiaobao also jumped in after her. The moment they entered the water, the figures of people appeared where the water was churning. The bodies of several children. And there was also an adult? With the help of the light in the sky that hadn't disappeared yet, the 4 people who delivered the information saw that the adult's face was covered in blood, and it was still bleeding. One of his eyes seemed to be blind, and there was a piece missing in front of his nose. Blood was also continuously flowing out of his neck. However, this person seemed to have fainted. When the 9 children completely pulled him out of the water, they saw that this person was holding on to Xiaohai's arm with one hand, and that the wrist of his other hand was also bleeding. Let go, I'll bite it off for you." Xiaobei shouted like a crazy person, then opened his mouth and bit the hand that was holding on to Xiaohai's arm. The 4 people on the shore saw the blood flowing out of the person's wrist, and finally knew what was going on with the other hand. Other than Xiaobei biting, Zhang Hu also opened his mouth and bit the person's thumb, pulling it out with all his might. He forcibly pulled the person's clenched hand away. The 4 of them suspected that the bone of the person's thumb was about to be exposed. The little fellas were gnawing on it like a pig's trotter. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also swam over one after the other. When they saw that the person's other hand was still clenched, they knew that this was the last reaction before drowning. Wang Wan was about to make a move, but Zhang Xiaobao swam faster than her and reached out his hand first. "Let me do it." As he spoke, he reached out and broke the other person's fingers, one by one, and suddenly used all his strength. After 3 consecutive sounds, the person who had already fainted woke up from the pain of his broken fingers. "Ah. Cough, cough. You scream, I'll let you scream." Xiaobei had already let go of his mouth, waving his little fist and smashing it at the other person's heavily injured eye. The other children also cooperated and landed their fists on various parts of the person's head. Xiaohai, who had just broken free from the other person's hand, splashed water at the other person's mouth. "Get out of the way!" Zhang Xiaobao shouted. Following the other person's arm, he used his legs to clamp the other person's body. Exerting strength in his arms, he directly carried the other person's arm behind his back in the water. Wang Wan also did the same from the other side. Then there were 2 cracking sounds. The person's 2 arms were directly dislocated by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan behind him. The person's head also fell into the water again, and a few bubbles appeared. He fainted again, not sure if it was because of the pain or because of choking. "Let's go ashore first," Zhang Xiaobao said to his younger siblings and dragged the person over with Wang Wan. The 4 people who delivered the information quickly took over. Without any instructions, they began to treat the person. He had frightened the main family's babies in the water. It was impossible for him to die so easily. "Brother, does it hurt?" Xiaobei asked as soon as he came up and helped Xiaohai rub the place where he had been grabbed. Xiaohai grinned. "It's okay. His hand is really strong. He wanted to grab my neck. Luckily, I dodged. The next time I go back into the water, I'll bring the tri-edged dagger with me. If someone comes, I'll stab him to death." Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were examined by their younger brothers and sisters, afraid that they would get hurt. In the end, they found that only Xiaohai's arm had been scratched. There was a circle of purplish bruises on his arm, but it was not too obvious because of Shui Lung's purplish skin. "What's going on?" Zhang Xiaobao gathered his siblings together and hugged Xiaobei as he asked. There was still blood on Xiaobei's teeth that had not been washed away by the water. He spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood and said, "I bit him to death. Just now when we were fishing for things he came over. The water was mixed because of us, so we couldn't immediately see that it was a person. It was just a dark shadow. Then he wanted to grab me. I used my foot to kick somewhere on his body and used the force to dodge. Brother Xiaohai, who was behind me, showed up. We fought and bit each other. I even used the tip of the conch to stab his eyes." Xiaohai continued. "He wanted to grab my neck, but he couldn't see. I felt the shadow come towards my head. I kicked the water, and my body rose a little. He grabbed my arm. Then, I seemed to use my foot to kick his throat. Before my other hand could close, he stopped moving. Yes, he was unlucky. He calculated the wrong person." Zhang Xiaobao nodded and said. Chapter 1101. The 4 people who came to deliver the information saved the attacker who had fainted from drowning. This person seemed to be quite strong-willed. After waking up, he didn't struggle. He sat there without saying a word. He wasn't like other people who pretended to be strong-willed, glaring angrily after being caught. He used his remaining eye to calmly look at Zhang Xiaobao, his pupil almost losing focus. Wake up, stop dreaming. You didn't catch him to threaten my brother and sister, but we caught you. Xiaobei picked up a suitable stone from the ground. When she saw that the person in front of her had woken up, she swung her arm and smashed it on his forehead. She said angrily because Xiao Hai's arm was bruised. That was her brother. After being hit, the eyes of the seemingly tough man regained focus, and a trace of panic appeared on his face. His throat issued a painful groan, but he couldn't say anything. It seems like this was caused by Little Hai kicking his throat when they were underwater. Xiaobei stuck out her chest and put her hands on her waist. She continued to attack him verbally. Little guy, you dare to scheme against us? You think you can use us to threaten my brother and sister? Do you think you can do whatever you want on land? You'll choke to death. The person glared at Xiaobei. Suddenly he felt dizzy and fell backward. No one supported him. His head fell to the ground and made a sound that could only be heard when a ripe watermelon was knocked on the ground. He's exhausted. One of the people who came to deliver the information went over and touched the person's neck. He raised his head and said to Zhang Xiaobao and the others. Zhang Xiaobao nodded. He snuck in from somewhere else. He thought that Xiaobei and the others were too busy and didn't have much strength. He didn't know that he was also short of oxygen. Help him stop the bleeding on his wrists and apply medicine to his eyes. I have something to ask him in a while. After speaking, Zhang Xiaobao took out a bottle of white wine from Xiaohu's backpack. He originally planned to use it to make beggar's chicken for his brothers and sisters after catching pheasants in the mountains. Now he could take out a part of it to treat Xiao Hai. The medicinal wine was too pungent. He was afraid that it would affect Xiao Hai's appetite. Children did not need too strong drugs. They were still in their puberty period and their metabolism was already fast enough. There was no need to continue using drugs to stimulate them. He poured a little wine into his palm and rubbed his hands together. Once it was warm, he rubbed it on Little Hai's arm. Little Hai was in so much pain that his teeth cracked, but he didn't make a sound. He just lowered his head and acted like he was angry. Seeing his younger brother's expression, Zhang Xiaobao smiled and said, Do you think you're a bad swimmer and got caught? Actually, it's not your fault. He came too suddenly, and the water was mixed up by you guys fishing for river snails. If it were a normal person, he would have grabbed his neck. Other people would have to close their eyes to go down. Xiaobei dodged it. Little Hai still thought that his ability was not good enough. In his opinion, he should have dodged as well, and then the 9 of them would have beaten him up. In a situation where the opponent did not have any ability to resist, they would drown. Xiaobei blocked your vision. Otherwise, you could have dodged it. Be content. If it were on the shore, unless you use guns, you can only rely on your fists, feet, and teeth. Even if there were 9 children of your age, you still wouldn't be able to beat one person. As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he glanced at the person who had woken up again and felt sad for him. One of the 4 people who sent the message, while bandaging the injured person's wrist, said to him disdainfully, What else can you do besides sneak attack? In the end, your sneak attack didn't succeed, and you were pressed into the water by a group of children. If I were you, I would have drowned and not woken up. Zhang Xiaobao rubbed his younger brother's arm a few more times and said to them, Continue to fish for river snails. Don't stop just because others disturb you. I'll go down and fish with you. Let's see who dares to sneak attack and grab their neck. Zhang Xiaobao's clothes were already wet. He went back to the tent and changed into a pair of swimming trunks. With a covered box in his hand, he ran 2 steps and directly dove into the water. The 9 children cheered and jumped in like dumplings. What happened just now did not leave any psychological shadow on them, because they never felt that 9 people could not beat one person in the water. They were just angry because they were sneak attacked. Wang Wan lit the fire and changed her clothes. She found a stick, put the clothes on it, and put it next to the fire to dry. When she was done, She took a knife in her hand and asked 2 of the 4 people to drag the person who had sneaked up on them to the mountain where there was no one. When Zhang Xiaobao and his brothers and sisters had caught enough river snails for everyone, Wang Wan came down from the mountain with the 2 people, but she saw the person being dragged over. Zhang Xiaobao poured the last box of river snails into the folded bucket and asked, "Are you done asking? Did you get any useful information?" Wang Wan nodded. "Yes. I promised him that as long as he said it, I would send him overseas and let him live a comfortable life. He said a lot, but I lied and killed him." "Actually, you didn't lie. There is a poem as proof." Suddenly, he heard that there was a mountain of immortals on the sea. The mountain was in the void. If he didn't die, how could he enter the void? He had to endure the pain while he was alive. It was better to die, Zhang Xiaobao said. In fact, he wanted to say that this was what you did. If you confessed, you would be lenient. You would be in prison for life. At this time, Xiaobei came over and asked, "Sister, did he say that he was no match for us in the water?" "Yes, he said that he regretted attacking you in the water. Otherwise, with our dogs and eagles, we wouldn't have been able to find him. He also said that with his swimming skills, as long as he didn't appear, he would be able to leave the vicinity of Mount Lu. From then on, he would be able to live the rest of his life in peace. The 2 of you can prove it," Wang Wan said to Xiaobei, then looked at the 2 people who followed her to the interrogation. The 2 of them nodded repeatedly, as if they were telling the truth. Xiaobei nodded in satisfaction. Actually, even if he didn't say it, he would think that way. I know that if we fought fairly in the water, it would be easy for me to take care of him alone. He wouldn't be able to catch me. Yes. Our Xiaobei is the best. Zhang Xiaobao praised, then looked at Wang Wan. Wang Wan continued. He can be considered a small leader. He said that he secretly followed the sect leader to where he was hiding. It was behind a waterfall, and there was probably a cave. He also said that the reason they were hiding at Mount Lu wasn't to attack us, but to set up something to ignite the fire. When the time comes, the fire will burn the vegetation of Mount Lu. First, it can burn tourists to death. Second, it can burn the vegetation of Mount Lu, which will affect the construction of our railway. Our railway is still using wooden sleepers for shock absorption. We don't have enough raw materials for cement. Most of the cement is used on the riverbanks and the houses of the rich, as well as the biogas pools and schools in various villages and counties. Furthermore, it's not convenient to transport the cement sleepers. The shock absorption layer below also requires other stones and soil. With so much manpower and material resources, it's better to use stones to build ordinary roads. Third, they want to see the effect of burning Mount Lu. If the effect is good, our Tang Empire still has many mountains to burn. The 100-year-old trees can be burned. The wild fungi used for food can be burned, and the animals in the forest can be burned to death. It will hinder our tourism industry and destroy our ecosystem. The 4 people who came to deliver the information didn't know what effect burning forests would have on the Tang Empire. In the past, forests were burned to make farmland, but it was not allowed in recent years. The main family said that forests were useful, but until now, they didn't see any big use. It was better to have more fertile farmland. What's with your expressions? Xiaobei was unhappy when he saw the 4 people's disapproving expressions. Why don't you learn more? Building a house requires wood. Even if cement is used, the doors and windows also need wood. If everything is made of metal, the Tang Empire can't bear to do so. Chopsticks for eating need bamboo and wood. Ships also need wood. We can't just use metal to make ships. In winter, charcoal is also wood and bamboo. There's also the paper used by the children in school. It's so easy to light a fire, especially when the wind is strong and the sky is dry. Let me tell you, the northern part of Hebei province is where the Bohai Commander-in-Chief's mansion is located. The forest is covered in snow all year round, so a fire can be lit. When they burn all the trees in the Tang Empire, we're finished. Xiao Yuan, you add on. Xiaobei counted with his fingers and said to the 4 people. Xiao Yuan was stunned for a moment. After muttering, he said, "Also, when there are trees, it can rain, and the water and soil can stay. When there are no trees, you know the desert. The result is like that." Deserts have existed since ancient times. It's not something that can be changed by humans. One of the people who heard Xiao Yuan retorted. Yes, it's very difficult to turn a desert into an oasis, but it's very easy to turn an oasis into a desert. When the time comes, the rivers will stop flowing and the lakes will dry up. It's very scary. You haven't seen it before, so of course you don't know. Xiao Yuan explained to the other party as if he had seen it before. He also heard about it from stories. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan told stories to their younger siblings not only to promote their learning, but also to define and change their personalities. Naturally, there was a lot of popular science. Nowadays, people had no concept of environmental protection in their hearts. They were not allowed to destroy forests and build fields casually. This was enforced by them. Not all trees were forbidden to be cut down. There were different places. Even if they were to be cut down, they had to be cut down in a planned way. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also admitted that the power of nature itself was very strong. Deserts, volcanoes, and the vicissitudes of life could not be changed by humans. However, it was very difficult for humans to stop it. If they wanted to help destroy it, it was really too easy. Perhaps there was no way for humans to stop the movement of the Earth's crust and the change of the magnetic field. One day, the Earth would undergo another earth-shaking change. However, humans could try their best to live more comfortably before that time arrived. Even if they were destroyed tomorrow, they could at least live in an environment with blue skies and clear water today. It was better than humans killing themselves before the irresistible destruction happened. That was the saddest thing. When the four of you have time, you really need to learn more. Don't think that just because you're from the intelligence department, you only study your own specialties. There are nature lessons in school. If you don't learn, your children will be better than you in the future. The other party is indeed very smart. They can tell that we need a large amount of wood to support the relevant important industries. At least they are smarter than other terrorists. Don't you think so, Cuckoo? Zhang Xiaobao said to the four of them, and then asked Wang Wan. Wang Wan nodded. She also admitted that the terrorists in the past were not as smart as the ones causing trouble for the Great Tang now. They only knew how to use suicide bombings. They were clearly stupid. Why did they have to directly target people, forests, and rivers when they wanted to wreak havoc? Just like the Japanese, Duosher, and the people from the small southwestern countries, they were very smart. They wanted to throw pollutants into the water and burn down Mount Lu. After they succeeded, they summed up their experience and continued to burn other forests. It was really impossible to guard against them. In any case, it was just a life. Even if it was a suicide bombing, it did not matter. Why not run to a certain country to hide? When the trees were about to ripen in 2 days, pick a windy day, light a fire, and burn a large area. There was also their forest. Send out a few hundred people and burn them separately. How big of an impact would the relevant industries receive? How much would the number of unemployed people increase? As long as the society was a little chaotic, more people would be killed than a direct suicide bombing. Thinking of such an interesting thing, Wang Wan couldn't help but laugh out loud. She quickly coughed and said, "The four of you discuss among yourselves. Keep watch at night. We will tell the little guys stories first. Later, when they go to sleep, we will wake up in the middle of the night to prepare food for you guys." Yes. The four of them no longer argued about whether burning down the mountain was bad for the Great Tang. They agreed and began to look for a place to stay at night. The four of them could switch to 4 shifts. This way they wouldn't be too tired. Each person would keep watch for more than 2 hours. It would be dawn soon, and it wouldn't affect the midnight snack. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan took their younger siblings to sit by the fire and began to tell stories. In fact, it was just a review. The various questions in the stories required the little guys to answer with the knowledge they had learned. The 9 children already knew the purpose of their older brother and sister's storytelling. They could also make up their own stories and tell them to Pan and Pan, so that the 2 younger children could learn. If it were someone else telling them stories, they would definitely scoff and ask them to put away this childish method. However, it was different since it was their older brother and sister. They also wanted to show off when their older brother and sister were telling stories, so that their older brother and sister could see their improvement. They would consciously learn now. It wasn't that knowledge was really that good. No one liked to read and memorize things. They were all willing to play. However, they needed to show off their knowledge in front of other people's children. They could show how powerful they were. At the same time, they wanted to gain recognition and praise from their family. In their hearts, their older brother and sister were idols. They were very, very powerful, and were forever invincible. Others praised them 10,000 times, but it was not as good as their older brother and sister nodding their heads. In the evening, Xiao Bei and the others caught a lot of river snails. They even had an interesting water battle. After listening to the stories, they were physically and mentally exhausted. They lay down and fell asleep. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan discussed some preventive measures. They formulated a plan to increase the number of people patrolling the border. At the same time, they also planned to set up a professional training organization to train firefighters. They also planned to buy wood from other places. For example, Japan was an island country. They didn't need so many trees. They just needed to fish. They would chop down the wood, burn it into charcoal, and ship it to Tang to sell. This didn't involve too much technology, and there were no technical barriers in trade. The products would be good and could be sold for a high price. After the discussion, the two of them fell asleep together. In the middle of the night, they woke up again to make spicy river snails for everyone. In the end, after eating, no one was sleepy anymore. They climbed up a small mountain and waited for the sunrise. At dawn, they met up with a group of more than 50 people and 20 hunting dogs. They headed for the waterfall that the people who were caught yesterday had confessed. At noon, Xiao Bei and the other 9 children were sleepy. They slept for a full 2 hours before continuing their journey. In the afternoon, around 4:30, they finally arrived near the waterfall. Xiao Bei, look at this poem that I'll write for you. The title of the poem is Looking at the Lushan Waterfall. Say it. The sun shines on the incense burner, and the purple smoke rises. Look at the waterfall hanging in front of the river, flying straight down. Xiao Bei, don't listen to your brother. He's talking nonsense. This isn't the Lushan incense burner peak. When we get to the real place, I'll tell you. Your brother is copying others. Xiao Bao, do you think you're worthy of him? Wang Wan didn't wait for Zhang Xiaobao to recite the entire poem. She hurriedly interrupted and told her brothers and sisters not to believe him. Then she asked Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao choked and said, "How did I let him down? He's doing well in the Ministry of Revenue. Without me, he wouldn't even have the chance to enter the court. Even if he did, he would only be in the entertainment department, the kind that doesn't have any real power. Do you think anyone can be an official in the capital? There are many capable people. He's just one more. He's busy as an official and doesn't have time to write too many poems. How can those good poems be passed down in the future? What I'm doing now is a kind of sacrifice, a kind of worship of the virtuous. It has played a positive role in the inheritance of Chinese civilization. Let him write now. Yesterday is like the east flowing water, leaving me far away. Today is a mess. My heart is full of worries, cutting the water with a knife. You're talking about the lyrics. He's talking about those who have abandoned me. Yesterday cannot be kept. Do you understand? Wang Wan corrected him. Yes, I'm talking about the lyrics. But it's easy to understand. Don't you see that when people write romance, they just translate the book of songs and become popular? Many children only know that the mountains have no edges and the heaven and earth are united before they dare to break up with the king, but they don't know what shangxie is. This is the power of the masses. What the people like is correct. You say he's writing, cutting the water with a knife makes the water flow even more. Is he in the mood now? In another 2 years, if he does well and is promoted to rank 5, he'll be able to participate in the big court meetings. He definitely won't be thinking of sitting on a crooked boat tomorrow and messing around with his hair, right? Zhang Xiaobao argued irrationally. Shangxie is a folk song. It comes from the people. How is it not popular? You're always reasonable. Xiao Bei, I'm telling you, don't listen to your brother and deceive others. Wang Wan raised her head to look at the waterfall, trying to find the legendary cave. She said this to Xiao Bei and the others. Xiao Bei also raised his head to look at the waterfall. From time to time, a few drops of water would fall on his face from the wind. He said, "Lyrics? Let brother sing it. When we catch the people behind the waterfall, I'll let them sing hide and seek." They actually hid in such a hidden place. If no one told us, how long would it take to find them? Chapter 11:02. When they stopped under the waterfall and looked up, the 7 people in the cave behind the waterfall were still unaware of what was going on. In order to survive for as long as possible with the limited food, the 7 people had already started the food demand reduction plan. They used to eat 3 meals a day, but now they only ate 2 meals a day. There was no difference in the number of meals they ate before. They used to eat 2 meals a day, just like most of the people of the Great Tang. A small portion of the people of the Great Tang only ate 1 meal a day. Productivity could not keep up, and with all kinds of natural disasters, the people had no choice but to eat 2 meals a day and not see meat for a long time. Only those who lived close to the river could occasionally eat fish. As for mutton, that was the food of the rich. Pork was not exclusive to the rich, but they could not afford to raise it. Those who could cut some pig grass could only eat a little by the time the pig was ready to be slaughtered. Now the people of the Great Tang basically ate 3 meals a day. It was not that the seeds of the Senongsi were good, but the Senongsi was still unable to take care of the entire Great Tang. It was still far from that ideal period. The main reason was that many places in the Great Tang now practice cropping according to local characteristics. At the same time, they had also learned a lot of advanced farming techniques from Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. They did not completely rely on the weather to eat. Fertilizer made from feces and grass stalks was very useful in the fields. It was impossible to eat meat every day, unless chickens were only ready to be slaughtered once a month and pigs grew up in 3 months. Zhang Xiaobao did have such techniques, but he did not take them out. First, the manufacturing process was very laborious and required various materials to be extracted. Second, this thing was not suitable for people to eat. He and Wang Wan were like that. Anyone with a bit of power and money would not eat things that were ready to be slaughtered quickly. The pork they ate was the kind that could only be slaughtered after at least 10 months. The 7 people in the cave saw that the lives of the people of the Great Tang were better, compared to the lives of their own people. The difference was like heaven and earth. And they were still in the cellar. As a result, he also ate 3 meals a day. Every day, there would be 1 meal with meat. But now that was no longer the case. In order to fight a protracted battle, they had to eat 2 meals a day. Furthermore, both meals were diluted. They used 2/5 of the food they used before, while they saved 3/5. Since they ate less, their activities naturally decreased as well. Therefore, the 7 of them fell asleep in the damp cave after lunch. Listening to the sound of the waterfall outside was like a lullaby to them after a long time. After getting used to it, it was like a lullaby. He would wait for another 2 hours before he could eat his second meal of the day. Then he would continue to sleep to ensure that his body was in good condition. The people who came with Zhang Xiaobao did not understand the situation in the cave. They did not even see the cave, as it was completely blocked by the waterfall. Moreover, the sun was shining in the west, turning the water flowing down the waterfall into a mirror. It looked white with a hint of other colors. Occasionally, when they looked in the right direction, they could see a small rainbow. Now rainbows were no longer strange. When the sun was shining brightly, they could hold a mouthful of water and spit it out in front of them. Naturally, artificial rainbows could be seen. Since they could not see inside from the outside, the people who followed naturally thought that the people inside were observing the situation outside. Therefore, they found things that could be written on, such as charcoal strips, and wrote the words for the people to surrender on a piece of cloth. A few people propped themselves up and faced the direction of the waterfall, waiting for the people inside to come out by themselves. After a while, Xiao Bei and the others were tired of standing there. They ran to the river formed by the waterfall to see if there were any fish, but there was still no reaction from the waterfall. "Little young master, is there really a cave behind? We can't see it," one of them said to Zhang Xiaobao, who was sitting there and playing Gomoku with Wang Wan. Zhang Xiaobao had already observed it with his binoculars, so he was not in a hurry. His purpose in coming here was not to directly capture people. His subordinates would do that. He wanted to bring his younger siblings to play. He had seen Mount Lu's waterfall many times, so it was not attractive to him. He guessed that Wangwan was the same, although Mount Lu back then could not be compared to the current one. However, to his younger siblings, Mount Lu was still full of color. The flowers, birds, fish, and insects, as well as the unique natural scenery of Mount Lu, made his younger siblings very happy. The happiness of a child was usually very simple. Even if they learned a few lines of a new song, they would be happy for the whole day if they could sing it. Even if they did not spend it, they would just hold on to it and not buy anything when they passed by the market. Many adults found that as they earned more and more money, they could not find the happy times they once had. Perhaps it was because of a sense of responsibility, or perhaps it was because they had experienced too much that their hearts had become numb. However, the most fundamental reason was that the adults had begun to learn to accept their fate. Their hearts were no longer filled with dreams, or perhaps they were not willing to dream. Zhang Xiaobao knew that his younger siblings would not be happy for the whole day because of a few copper coins. This was a kind of sorrow and happiness. Once the little ones were worried about money, the amount of money they needed was definitely not a small amount. Most of the time, the happiness of the little ones actually came from the happiness of other children. A few 100,000 strings of cash was just a number to them. They would not look at the money and laugh out loud. Just like the old crosstalk once said, "If you can laugh when you look at money, then you will get an illness that money cannot cure." If they really put a pile of paper money in front of their younger siblings, they would only feel that it was taking up space. Their usual source of happiness was that they gave money to other children through various means. After seeing the happy faces of other children, they would feel that they had helped others. For children, this kind of happiness was very cruel. In fact, this was the reason why many children from rich families had twisted personalities. Zhang Xiaobao did not want his younger siblings to lack happiness, so he always thought of ways to personally bring them out to play. When other children caught and sold a bit of meat to a restaurant, they would feel the happiness of receiving money. However, the happiness of his younger siblings did not come from selling the meat, but from participating in the process. In order to make Mount Lu more lively when more people were busy with their work, so that his younger siblings could have more days to play, Zhang Xiaobao was very unwilling to cooperate with his men to capture the enemy immediately after he grasped the enemy's whereabouts. He admitted that he was very selfish now. The team he sent to Mount Lu was huge. There were people who flew in the sky, people who ran on the ground, and people who discovered that people could hide in the water yesterday, so he sent more people who could swim. The huge team was not only manpower, but also material support. The direct and indirect costs of a day's consumption were equivalent to a small county's monthly income. If used on the common people, it was enough to let thousands of people eat the same meal as the new year. However, he was willing to spend money. His goal was to let more people make Mount Lu lively, without too much danger, so that his younger siblings could have as much fun as they wanted. Therefore, when he heard the inquiry of his subordinates, Zhang Xiaobao did not immediately tell others about the traces he had found by the waterfall. Instead, he first looked at his younger siblings who had run to the riverside to look around. The person who asked the question did not understand Zhang Xiaobao's meaning. So he assured Zhang Xiaobao, "Little young master, don't worry. We will definitely take care of Xiaobei and the rest and not let them face any danger." Zhang Xiaobao looked at his subordinate and said, "If you want to know if there is a cave behind, you can use smoke. If there is someone inside, you will definitely be able to smoke it out." "Ah, smoke. Little young master, that is a waterfall. If you light a smoke and fly up, it will be washed away by the water. When the waterfall flows down, it will also cause the smoke to be less effective. It is better to use artillery. Bullets will probably not be able to enter." The subordinate looked at his young master in surprise and reminded him. He was very puzzled. How did the young master become so stupid? How could he not understand such a simple principle? As he spoke, he looked at his wife, Cuckoo, and hoped that she could help him come up with a better idea. Wang Wan seemed to be immersed in the game of Gomoku. She put down another white piece and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "It is your turn. Put down a few more pieces and I will definitely win." Your skill level is about the same as Xiaohai's. Xiaohai is good at calculation and can now solve a binary quadratic equation. Arrogant people will always lose. Zhang Xiaobao picked up a black piece and put it on the other side without thinking. He played 4 pieces in a row, which made Wang Wan have no choice but to block. It seemed that this move was useless. What? Is playing chess related to trickery? If that was the case, you would have already become an internationally known master of chess and Go. You didn't even know how to solve a binary quadratic equation before. Wang Wan was not convinced and blocked with her hand. I still don't know how to calculate the relationship between the average GDP and CPI, but I definitely have the ability to influence the average national production growth of a place and the degree of currency depreciation under the radiation of the local commodity prices. Don't think of things as absolute. Zhang Xiaobao continued to find a place where he could play, and said to Wang Wan with a smile. The person waiting for orders was anxious. Young master, young lady, you too waterfall, right? Wang Wan seemed to have heard someone else's voice. She frowned and said to the person with dissatisfaction. You are Zhang Yuan, one of the first batch of Zhang family to enter the inner courtyard. You have parents, a single uncle, a wife and 2 children. You are not stupid. Being one of the first batch of people to enter the inner courtyard, you should be smart. Why are you still asking? Inner courtyard, whose inner courtyard is it? Didn't you hear what Xiaobao said? Don't think of things as absolute. What is our purpose for coming here? Stay away, think carefully, and come back to talk after you think clearly. Wang Wan's words were already a reprimand. She now understood Zhang Xiaobao too well. At the same time, she and Zhang Xiaobao also had the same idea, which was to treat everything as a game. Only in front of their family would they become real. She had already thought that the method used to deal with Zhang Xiaobao was biased. She should not have directly labeled Zhang Xiaobao as an international swindler and then arrested him. Instead, she should have used the orphanage Zhang Xiaobao came from. As long as they used the name of the orphanage and acted in a diplomatic way, many small countries in Africa would not need to spend too much effort to rope them in, even if the orphanage only took 1% of the benefits in the entire process. In that case, in a situation where the country did not need to mobilize other people, Zhang Xiaobao would naturally take the initiative to attack and cooperate with the corresponding things. This was because that was Zhang Xiaobao's route, where his soul was entrusted. Even if he knew that he was being used, he had to do it. Now what she and Zhang Xiaobao cared about was each other and their families. Otherwise, the 2 of them would be lonely. Now who could challenge Zhang Xiaobao's position? Although the enemy this time came up with a plan to pollute the environment and burn down Mount Lu. But to her and Zhang Xiaobao, the enemy's way of doing things was not grand enough. What was truly grand was an open scheme, not a conspiracy. Compared to Li Longji, who could become an emperor, the people from a few countries working together were too low level. That was why she wanted to support Zhang Xiaobao. At the same time, she was dissatisfied with the first batch of people from the inner courtyard who were recruited from outside. The person who asked the question did not know what Wang Wan was thinking. When he heard the girl's words, cold sweat soaked his back. He left the place where people were playing chess and found a tree. He squatted there and carefully thought about what he had done wrong to make the young master and the young lady angry. Here's a fish for you to eat. Just grill it and put some salt on it. You don't need to put anything else. It tastes good. After being reprimanded by Wang Wan, the person who was squatting under the tree ran to think about things. Suddenly, Xiaobei appeared in front of him, holding a fish that weighed more than half a kilogram in her arms. Miss Xiaobei, what are you? The person asked in confusion. He looked at the fish and did not know what to do. Xiaobei stared at him. Take it. It's for you. You are the inner courtyard and I am the master. I have to think about the inner courtyard first when I catch the fish. The others have to wait until we catch more fish. Let me tell you, there are also fish under the waterfall. They are all stupid fish. I guess they fell from the waterfall and became confused after hitting the water. We can use the net in my brother's backpack. We can catch a few with one net. I didn't jump into the water. My clothes are still wet. I'll net a few more in a while. Then I have to change my clothes. Otherwise, my brother and sister will be angry. They brought us here to play, not to make us sick. We never knew that Mount Lu was so fun. It's not worse than the northern part of Hubei province. Over there, you can scoop up fish with a ladle. Here, the fish fell and became confused. Haha. Xiaobei threw the fish to the person as she spoke. She held her stomach and laughed. No one knew why she was so happy. Hearing Xiaobei's words, this person blankly hugged the fish and looked around. Sure enough, he saw that there were a few people from the inner courtyard who had the same status as him. And they all had a fish in their hands. Looking at Xiaobei's happy expression and recalling what Xiaobei had just said, this person finally understood why Miss Cuckoo and young Master Xiaobao were angry. As members of the inner court of the Zhang clan and Wang clan, they had to take care of the affairs of the Great Tang, such as the livelihood of the people, intelligence, technology, disasters, and so on. This was very normal. Even the common people of the Great Tang believed that the Zhang clan and Wang clan were definitely on the side of the Great Tang. But the inner courtyard was still the inner courtyard. The people of the Great Tang had to depend on the will of the master. The inner courtyard's first loyalty was not to the Great Tang, but to the master, who was the most powerful existence in the main family. Naturally, it was Miss Cuckoo and young Master Xiaobao. Although there was nothing that could cause the main family's young master and young lady to have a dispute with the main family's master and madam. However, everyone in the inner courtyard knew that if the young master and young lady wanted to kill someone, the main family's madam and master would not be able to stop them even if they wanted to. But if the main family's madam and master wanted to kill someone, and the young lady and young master said that it was useful to save them, then they would definitely save them. Master and madam would definitely not kill someone when the two of them were against it. But now, the two people with the most authority in the main family had brought their younger brother and sister to play. He could not see the situation clearly, and insisted on letting them come up with ideas to catch the bad guys. He even questioned the situation behind the waterfall. Of course, the main family was angry. Since they already knew the bad guys' methods, why did they have to end it immediately? Wouldn't it be better to play with Xiaobei and Xiaoyuan for a while? Thinking back to what Xiaobei had just said. You are the inner courtyard, and I am the master. I have caught the fish, so I have to think about the inner courtyard first. For a moment, this person did not dare to raise his head to look at Xiaobei. Hey, say something. You should at least thank us. We caught the fish ourselves. Let me tell you, if you want to eat fresh fish, you don't need to put too much seasoning. A little salt is enough. I have experience. It's fine to roast the outside of the fish. The meat inside is still tender. Actually, Big Brother has other things to do. Otherwise, Big Brother would have roasted the fish for you. The outside wouldn't be burnt. Really, wait, I'll continue to catch fish with them. The people above don't come down. I really want to climb up myself, but it's too dangerous. I'm not afraid of falling. It's just a waterfall. But I don't know how to climb that mountain. It's almost straight. I reckon only Big Brother can climb it easily. Alright, I won't talk to you anymore. I'm going to catch fish. Remember, this fish is yours. No one is allowed to snatch it. Tell me who wants to snatch it, and I'll take care of him. Xiaobei said a few more words to this person, then turned around and ran off into the distance with his two little legs. Looking at Xiaobei's leaving figure, this person took a deep breath, stood up, and walked to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Looking at the two people who were still playing chess, he lowered his head and said, Little young master, little miss, I know I was wrong. Don't bother, okay? What wrong? I asked you to light the cigarette. What does it have to do with you being wrong? Go, what's wrong with the waterfall? If the smoke is thick enough, even the waterfall can't block it. What if there are other ventilation holes in their cave? Smoke is not meant to make people faint. Do you know? Zhang Xiaobao said impatiently. If it were someone else who suddenly heard a new word, they would not understand it. But Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were used to the new words of the little young master and little miss, and they had learned them. Hearing the little young master's words, this person was even more grateful. He knew that the little young master understood what he wanted to say, but didn't let him say it. It was nothing more than a kind of care. Yes, I know. Light the cigarette. Little young master, little miss, I won't make the same mistake in the future. When it's time to light the cigarette, I'll let little Miss Xiao Bei and little young Master Xiao Yuan do it personally. They have good intentions, and the cigarettes they light are the most terrible for bad people. This person did not continue to say what he was wrong about. Since they were not willing to listen, he understood that they wanted to see what he would do in the future. Therefore, he asked who the person who lit the cigarette was. It meant that he knew what was going on, and was willing to be played by the little guys of the main family. Chapter 1103. Zhang Yuan, who knew that he had made a mistake, tried his best to correct it. He ordered people to collect branches and grass. Some were from previous years, some were moist grass and branches that were still budding this year. There were even some that had been simply fermented under the roots. After observing the direction of the wind, he found a place where the wind was blowing and piled them up into a pile. Then he dug out a path to ignite the fire, and took the matches to call the 9 little ancestors who were still fishing by the water. Ah, you're starting to make a game? Okay, I'm coming. Xiao Bei patted the fish scales hanging on his body a few times, and dried his hands on Xiao Yuan's back. He took the match and jumped to the end of the path to ignite the fire. He looked up at the waterfall and laughed. He struck the match and ignited the thing under his feet. Seeing the fire spread to the pile of grass, he turned to Xiao Yuan and asked, "How long do you think it will take for them to react?" "What reaction?" Xiao Yuan also lit the fire. "Just shout, it's suffocating me. Don't release the smoke, I'll come out by myself." Xiao Bei shouted loudly. "It depends on whether the smoke can get in and how much." Xiao Yuan couldn't figure it out. He looked forward to the smoke rising and floating upwards. Xiao Hai was also counting. After he finished counting, he didn't participate in the discussion. He turned around and went to his brother and sister who were still playing chess. He watched them play a few moves and realized that he couldn't help anyone with his calculation ability. He then whispered to his sister, "Sister, can't we hit it with a bullet directly?" Wang Wan stopped playing. "It depends on the bullet's speed and penetration, as well as the thickness and flow rate of the waterfall hit by the bullet. It's like using a gun to hit water. It can't go in too deep and lose its strength. It can only rely on its own weight to fall down. Can you calculate it?" Xiao Hai was concerned about this problem. Wang Wan nodded. "In theory, yes, but it's not an accurate calculation. It's a calculation of a range. It's impossible to remove the obstruction and flow rate of the water. The only thing we can do is to minimize the impact as much as possible. For example, if you use a wooden board to block in front of you and I swing a big iron rod to hit you, I won't consider the obstruction of your wooden board, because the force of the iron rod far exceeds the resistance of your wooden board. Can I learn it?" Little Hai was particularly concerned about this matter. "No, because I can't teach you. I don't know how to do it. There's too much knowledge involved. Not only gravity, but also the obstacles in the environment during the bullet's flight, which are mesons, angles, and artificial intelligence. The calculation of the bullet's trajectory can be adjusted automatically. It's not that simple. You still have a long way to go before that day. In the future, it will depend on how hard you work. Your brother and I can only provide you with some theoretical knowledge, but we can't do anything practical." Wang Wan had used this type of weapon before. It was a bullet. With her technology at that time, the bullet was already equipped with intelligent guidance, but not all countries could master it. Little C was stunned for a moment. In his heart, he had always thought that there was nothing that his big brother and big sister couldn't do. But today, when he heard his big sister say that she couldn't calculate, he was depressed. Zhang Xiaobao touched his brother's head and said, "There is never an end to the things in the world. It requires the efforts of many people. All we can do is to keep exploring. However, the more we know, the more we will discover our own ignorance. The higher we fly, the more we will know the depths of the sky. I'm not talking about the atmosphere. In fact, when we fly up, we are also flying down. What makes people afraid is not the starry sky, but the heart. After time and time again, people will find that they have actually taken the wrong path. That kind of mental pain is the most uncomfortable. But we still have to go on, even if it is wrong. Maybe when we just proved a mistake, we also proved that it was right at the same time. Learn, mathematics can be applied to any field." Little Hai didn't fully understand his brother's words. He only knew that his knowledge was still too shallow. There was a very long way to go in the future. Only by persevering could he go further. Brother, I know. I will take out more time to study in the future, Little Hai said. Wrong. In the future, you have to take out more time to play. Learning is endless. There is a limit to my life, and there is no limit to my knowledge. There is a limit to my knowledge. If you are interested in learning, then learn. But learning is not the goal. How can you make yourself happy? Now there are people who are making me unhappy, so I can't let them be comfortable. When Zhang Xiaobao heard that his brother wanted to spend a lot of time studying mathematics, he hurriedly persuaded him. He didn't want his brother to become a fool who only knew how to calculate. It might be very important to mankind. The day he really became famous, he would write a thick stroke in the history of later generations. But this was not what he wanted. He only wanted his younger siblings to live happily every day. The burden of contributing to mankind was too heavy, and it was not suitable for his younger siblings to carry. Little Hai was confused again. The ones who wanted him to learn were his brother and sister, but the one who didn't want him to learn was his brother. Should he learn or not? Unable to understand, he left the chessboard and returned to the place where the fire was. Looking at the billowing smoke, he guessed how long the people inside could hold on. Using smoke to smoke the cave behind the waterfall was not very effective. Most of the smoke was blown away, and some of the smoke was scattered by the waterfall. Less than 1% of the smoke could enter the cave. Even so, the people did not give up. They still added leaves and grass to the fire regardless of their tiredness. It was already dark. In addition to the fire specially used to smoke people, the people also lit a pile of bonfires. They set up pots to cook, or directly roasted fish and wild animals. Xiaobei, who had changed her clothes, held a cup of juice in her hand and ran around excitedly. She scooped a spoonful of food from the pot to eat, and ran to another barbecue place to cut a piece of meat. From the beginning to now, she had not been idle. She could not be idle, but the 7 people in the cave could not be idle either. No matter how small the proportion of smoke entering the cave was, it could not withstand the large number. There were many bonfires, and with a slight change in the wind direction, the waterfall, which was almost completely covered by the smoke, could not protect the people in the cave. Before the people below started cooking, the people in the cave were awakened by the smoke. This time, it was not only the sect leader who coughed, but the other 6 people also coughed with him. The 7 people had moved to the innermost part of the cave, where there were vents leading to other places. There were a total of 3 vents. The 7 people took turns to breathe through the vents. They also cleverly wet their clothes to cover their faces. When one person breathed twice in front of the vents, he would hold his breath and give up his position. The second person would go over to breathe, and this rotation made them feel much better. But the 7 people were very clear that they could not continue like this. Otherwise they would not be able to eat. Moreover, the smoke outside seemed to become thicker as the night came. Sect leader, this is not good. We have to think of a way. Have we been discovered? The person who went down to observe the fireworks first used the air in his lungs to speak when his mouth came into contact with the vents. Then he took 2 deep breaths and could not help but cough. The vents did not always let in the wind from the outside. No matter what, the smoke in the cave was still a little hot, and it also increased the density of the air in the cave. Although it was only a little increase, the air circulation was formed because of this little change. Therefore, the smoke in the cave also drifted out of the vents. Even if one used their hands and wet clothes to block it, it could not be completely blocked. When one breathed through the vents, they would naturally inhale. It was the same for all 3 vents. This sect leader took up one of the vents alone, and the other 2 were used by the 6 people in turn. He was already coughing and short of breath, so it was impossible for him to switch with the others. When he heard the words of the people beside him, he wanted to speak but first coughed. After coughing for a while, he breathed twice in front of the vents and finally spoke. Go and see if they set the mountain on fire, or if they know that we are behind and come back after a look. Go quickly. Ah, I go? Okay. This person was shocked. After hesitating for a while, he gritted his teeth and agreed. After a few more breaths, he took a deep breath and held it. Using his wet clothes to cover his mouth and nose, he narrowed his eyes and ran towards the cave entrance. When he reached the cave entrance, he found that there was only thick smoke in front of him. He could not see the situation outside at all. As for the water, he could only feel the water splashing on his face. He could not see the shadow of the waterfall. The water did not emit light, and it was usually very dark at night. He wanted to go down like last time, but he knew that it was absolutely impossible. No matter how good his throwing skills were, he would not be able to hit a nail at night. Even if he was lucky and went down before he was smothered to death, would he be able to come back at night? Just when he did not know what to do, a gust of wind blew the smoke outside away. At this time, he finally saw the situation outside. The vague and hazy light shone in from the waterfall, and the water of the waterfall was also blown away by the wind. The swaying fire on the ground outside left a shadow in his eyes for a moment. At this time, the wind passed, and the smoke gathered again. He endured the shock in his heart and ran back as fast as he could. He wiped his eyes with his wet clothes and snatched the vents. After taking 2 more breaths, he gave the vents to others and went to the side of the sect master. It is all fire below. There are many people. It seems that they are eating there. The smoke is blowing here. Smoke? Silly, how can smoke make us like this? They deliberately let the smoke out. It's over. I didn't expect that they would find us hiding in the cave. The big thing is over. You are good. Jump down later, and bring back what we know in the Tang Empire. The sect master, Wei Wei, moved aside so that the other person could breathe the air of the vent. He did not care whether he coughed or not and gave the order. Sect master, don't give up. If they are suspicious, maybe they will use smoke all the places with waterfalls to test us. If we persist, we will be able to avoid them. The person advised. He did not want to jump down now. Although he was not afraid of being found by the people below, the sound of him jumping was not as loud as the sound of the waterfall. But if he jumped down from here, it would be very difficult to swim to a safe place alive. If he was not careful, he would be hit by the water of the waterfall into the whirlpool. The sect master thought for a moment and nodded. Then let's wait and see. So the 7 people continued to struggle to deal with the smoke. With the vents, they felt very uncomfortable. They would not die from the smoke, but every time they breathed, they would inhale a part of the smoke, followed by coughing. Then they had to continue to gasp for breath, which was more painful than directly killing them. Why haven't they come out to surrender? Did the people we caught earlier lie? Or did they already leave the cave? Or did they die from the smoke? Xiaobei ate a lot of food. He ate 1 or 2 mouthfuls in front of the bonfire, but couldn't resist eating too many times. When he was full, he no longer jumped around and ran. Instead, he went up the mountain to check the pills. He ate them bit by bit like snacks, rubbing his stomach with one hand and stuffing them into his mouth with the other. His legs slowly moved as if he was taking a stroll. A lot of mosquitoes flew over, and when they landed on the fire, they were burned to death, making crackling sounds. Looking at the stars in the sky, Xiaobei began to feel annoyed. He said to his brother and sister who were still eating slowly. Zhang Xiaobao was roasting fish and eating it piece by piece. When he heard his sister's words, he was also surprised. He guessed. Could it be that he fainted from the smoke? Is there any news from the people who are searching everywhere with torches, saying that they have found smoke coming from somewhere? I'll go ask. Xiaobei rubbed her stomach and went to ask. After a while she returned and said, Not yet. Let's wait for a while. It's not convenient to search at night. If I had known about the smoke in the morning, it would have been fine in the afternoon. Let's stop for a while first. If he fainted and everyone died from the smoke, I can only hope to catch people as evidence. Zhang Xiaobao ordered. The piles of fires used to smoke people were extinguished. The wind blew for a while, and the whole world seemed to cool down. Zhang Xiaobao said to his sister, See if the water is cold. If you can take it, go down and swim for a while. The food in your stomach should be more or less digested. In the future, control your eating. You always eat until you're full, but you're not fat. If other children ate like you, they would have become fat girls long ago. It's not cold, it's not cold. I'm going to swim with them. Xiao Bei thought it was time to sleep, and was thinking of an excuse to delay it. There were many people, and it was lively. It was not easy to have a chance to play, so it would be a pity to sleep now. As she spoke, she pulled Xiao Yuan. Xiao Yuan said unwillingly, "I think it's cold. I'm not going." "It's not cold. Hurry up and change into your swimsuit. Otherwise, I'll push you down." Xiao Bei helped Xiao Yuan make the decision. The 9 children jumped down one after another. The people on the shore quickly followed and lit up the section of the river they were swimming in with torches. The smoke outside stopped, and the smoke in the cave gradually dissipated. The 7 people felt that it was not so difficult to breathe. They coughed again, as if they were trying to cough out all the smoke they had inhaled. "Sect Master, look. They were just testing and did not confirm that we were behind the waterfall. I almost suffocated to death. Cough, cough." The person who went to check the situation coughed a few more times, and said to the sect master with a sigh of relief. After waiting for a while, the smoke in the cave could no longer be felt. The 7 people went to the entrance of the cave, and looked out through the waterfall. Sure enough, as the man had said earlier, there were many people outside. The flames were swaying, and there should be a lot of torches and bonfires. Even through the waterfall, it was still bright, as if they were looking at the outside through an irregular piece of thick glass. "Eat and sleep." The sect master observed for a while, and occasionally saw the situation outside. He waved his hand and ordered. The 7 people did not cook porridge this time. Instead, they casually took some rice and put it in the wind. They ate some salted vegetables, and had no clothes to cover themselves. They lay there and endured the discomfort of their bodies, forcing themselves to quickly fall asleep. In the middle of the night, Xiao Bei and the other 9 children also went to sleep in the tent. The others took turns to keep watch. Early the next morning, the 7 people in the cave woke up. The sun had just risen from the horizon, and they really could not sleep. In order to save on food, they did not move much other than sleeping, so that their bodies would not be so tired. Just as they were waiting for the people below to come to another place in the morning, they suddenly found that smoke was pouring into the cave again. Moreover, the smoke this time was even more uncomfortable than the smoke from last night. "Cough, cough, cough, what smoke is that? It's so smoky. What's that smell?" When one person smelled the smoke, he immediately covered his mouth and nose with wet clothes and ran toward the wind. The other 6 people did the same. After smelling the smoke today, they felt that their nose, mouth, throat, and eyes were burning. "Is this how the smoke is made? It's really fun. It looks more solid than last night's smoke." Xiao Hu looked at the bonfire, and said happily, "Today's smoke was added. It was mixed with animal feces and the fur and fat of the animals that were hunted for food yesterday. After it was lit, the smoke formed was more solid than yesterday's smoke. It was indeed similar to the smoke from the beacon tower. The smoke looked black with a hint of yellow, and yellow with a hint of white. In any case, it was a mixture of all kinds of colors. With one look, one would know that it would be uncomfortable. After smoking like this for half an hour, someone finally came to report that they found 2 smoking places. It was estimated that they were connected to the cave. "Stop first," Zhang Xiaobao ordered with a smile. The smoke was extinguished. Someone brought Zhang Xiaobao and the others up the mountain from another place. Sure enough, there were 2 places where smoke was wafting out. The smell was exactly the same as the things that were burning below. "Are there other smoking holes in other places?" Zhang Xiaobao stared at the 2 holes and asked. "Not yet. Little Gongzi, what do you think we should do next?" The person who was asked replied, "Fill them with water. Tell the people in the cave that they have been discovered. Force them to come out." Zhang Xiaobao said, "Brother, do we need to fill them with smoke?" Xiao Bei pointed at the 2 holes and asked, "Let's see how they perform first." Zhang Xiaobao turned around and walked down. Just as he returned to the ground, someone came up to him and reported, "Little Gongzi, we found a place for people to climb up and down on the rock wall. Should we arrange for people to attack? We can definitely fight our way in." Zhang Xiaobao waved his hand. "We won't force our way in. What if someone climbs up and throws rocks down from the top? That will cause casualties. I don't want to implicate our people just to catch a few people. It's not easy for Xiao Bei and the others to come here for fun. They might not come back for a few years. Hurry up if you want to catch people in other parts of Mount Lu. When we catch all of them, we'll celebrate when we get back. That's right. We haven't had enough fun yet. Don't attack. There are no hostages inside. My people are precious. Drag it out slowly. Drag it out until they die. If there's no other way, we can use cannons to bombard them. It's just money. I have money. Xiao Bei supported her brother. She knew that it was not easy to run around in the wilderness. Once this was over, they would have to follow the boat. It would be impossible for them to come out and play alone. The 7 people in the cave noticed that there was less smoke. They thought that the other party had finished probing once again. In the end, they saw that 2 of the 3 vents had started to leak water. They could no longer use them for ventilation. The 7 people were shocked when they saw the water. Their first thought was that they had been discovered. Then, they saw the water flowing towards the mouth of the cave. More and more water was coming out. Once again, they confirmed that they had been exposed. Sect leader, what should we do? Block it. One of them asked the sect leader. It's no use. Block 2 vents. Even if they don't find the other one, once they continue to leak water and use smoke outside, there will only be one mouth left. Can we still switch? Later, when the 6 of us surrender, you take the opportunity to jump down. You must send the news back. This is a matter of life and death. The sect leader gave the order to the person with the best skills. Sect leader, why don't I take you with me? If we're lucky, we might be able to escape. Otherwise, if you're captured, won't they use you as an excuse to attack us? The person sorrowfully said. He was keenly aware of the great Tang's reaction once the matter was exposed. To be more precise, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan would retaliate, and he began to regret coming here to cause trouble. Relax. No one will admit to it. I'll just say that it was my own idea. I could have just died, but if I really did die and didn't give them an explanation, they'll vent their anger on our country. I alone will take all the blame. The sect leader seemed to age a great deal as he sighed. While the 7 were discussing, shouts came from outside. Some were yelling directly, while others were using loudspeakers, but the voices were fairly uniform. The meaning was that the people inside should surrender. If they resisted, they would be captured and would not have a good ending. This was the method that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had often used. Of course, without a hostage, there was no need for a negotiator, and they didn't care if the people inside would harm themselves. Let's go. Get ready. There are quite a few people here. It's worth it to send so many people to capture me. Hearing that the sounds outside could faintly be heard over the movement of the waterfall, one could imagine how many people were outside. The sect leader helplessly shook his head and looked at the other 6. He wanted them to help him get out. This was what they had done when they came in. 5 of the 6 would be captured together. The remaining one would have to take advantage of the moment when the sect leader's attention was diverted to jump down from the top. Then he would have to see if his luck was good enough to avoid the whirlpool and escape. That way, he would be able to send back all the information he had gathered, especially the gun manufacturing techniques that sect leader Qi had shared with him. Although the firearms could only be used to shoot birds, it was definitely the foundation. Moreover, it was said that the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang clan trained in this way. When the time came, his people could also train. When there was an opportunity in the future, he could obtain other firearms from the Great Tang and immediately learn how to use them. Just like the previous person, the 6 of them carefully looped the rope. One of them was responsible for carrying the sect leader, and slowly moved out. The place where the rope was missing and they had to climb with their bare hands was very dangerous. Zhang Xiaobao's side also very kindly sent people to hold up a few large nets that were prepared to catch people who accidentally fell down to prevent people from falling to their deaths. The 6 people persevered and seemed to have exhausted all their strength. Finally, they reached the bottom. As soon as their feet touched the ground, they were tied up and carried to Zhang Xiaobao's side. At this moment, the remaining person in the cave took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. Then he took a little more breath and exerted force on his feet. He opened his arms and then closed them over his head. With a leap, he fell down the waterfall. The moment he fell into the water, he felt the world spinning. Relying on his swimming ability, he held his breath and stretched his body as far as possible, allowing the tumbling water to push him out of the whirlpool. Needless to say, his idea was good. He did not enter the whirlpool and was endlessly spinning. Instead, he was washed away by the water and rolled out. After waiting for more than 10 breaths, when he knew that he was alive, he still did not dare to poke his head out of the water. Instead, he stuck to the side of the shore and used his hands and feet to stay underwater. After a while, when his eyes were about to pop out, he finally poked his mouth out of the water and controlled his voice to breathe. He did not even dare to poke his head out to see the sect leader's situation. He was afraid that his gaze would be noticed by others. After a few breaths, he felt much better and continued to swim downstream. This happened a few times. Just when he was secretly happy and thought that he could successfully escape, he suddenly saw a few blurry figures in front of him. In less than 2 breaths, the figures became clear and entered his eyes. It was a few children. Seeing the children's figures, he was first shocked and knew that he had been discovered by the children. Then he was happy. The children who could play here were most likely the younger siblings of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. If he could catch one, he might be able to save the sect leader. With a trace of hope, he reached out to the figure in front of him. Just when he thought that he could catch the other person, he suddenly felt the sensation of touching something net-like. Then his head and body were also caught in the net. The person who sensed that something was wrong was very clear about the consequences of being caught in a net in the water. He hurriedly stretched out his 2 arms, wanting to open the net. He also began to kick with all his strength. At the same time, he did not forget to continue to reach out with his outstretched arms. Through the net, he could still catch the person with his 2 arms. Just when he thought that there was no problem, his stomach was pinched a few times. Then his ears. Someone even put their hands under his sleeves and moved with all their strength. His 2 legs were also grabbed by someone. Then he saw the figure of the child that he thought he could easily catch suddenly roll backwards. Like a fish, the child drew an arc in front of his eyes and ran under his body. Then he only felt that the world was spinning. His body was completely wrapped in the fishing net, and his throat was burning uncomfortably. Water entered his nose and directly caused his head to hurt like it was being pricked by needles. After that, he did not know anything. We caught a big fish. It's very, very big. Haha, we're in the water. This time we were caught by surprise. You want to catch us? Are you stupid? Humph. After knocking the other person out, Xiao Bei and the other 9 people swam to the shore and shouted to the person who was standing not far away and watching what had happened underwater. This person did not belong to the Zhang family or the Wang family. He was a member of the local military. He was in charge of standing here and watching the situation in the water. At the same time, he was also keeping an eye on Xiao Bei and the other 9 children who were playing in the water. After Xiao Bei and the other 9 people found out that the other party was in the waterfall, they wondered if the other party could escape from the water. If it were them, they would definitely think so. Although their brother and sister had arranged for people to set up layers of nets in a relatively narrow area downstream, they felt that they should still go down and look for the other party in the water. If they could find the other party, wouldn't it be considered their contribution? Therefore, the 9 of them used nets to stop the fish in the water, while keeping an eye on the front. They also wore water goggles. Last time, Xiaohai was caught by the other party, so they had learned to be smart. In the end, just as they were happily catching fish, they saw a big shadow coming from the water in front of them. When it got closer, they could see the other party's appearance very clearly through the water goggles. As a result, things became simple. The other party was indeed very skilled. At least, Xiao Bei and the others could not climb the wall next to the waterfall. Furthermore, the other party was also good at swimming. However, he did not have a water goggles, so he did not know how good his opponent was in the water. Once the net covered the other party, even Zhang Xiaobao would not be able to do anything, let alone him. In the water, one's strength could not be used. What was required was the coordination of one's body. Xiao Bei and the other 9 people had tricked the other party just like that. While they were fighting in the water, the person watching from the shore was stunned. He did not know what to do, so he shouted for the others. Then he saw the 9 children dragging a person out of the water. It was obvious that the other party had fainted and probably drank a lot of water. I'm talking to you. Why are you still watching? Help me. Once out of the water, the person becomes heavy. I can't pull him up. He looks like a fool. Xiao Bei stepped on the water to prevent the water from washing her away. At the same time, she shouted angrily at the person who was watching in a daze. She had done a meritorious deed. She could be considered a person who had done a meritorious deed, but the other party did not listen to her orders. It was too infuriating. The person reacted and pretended not to hear Xiao Bei's scolding. Not to mention that she was a little ancestor that he could not afford to offend. Even if it was an ordinary person, he would have the right to scold her. As he pulled the person up, he cooperated with her and asked, Xiao Bei, how did you catch him? I caught him with a net. He's stupid. When he saw us, he didn't run away. He even rushed towards us and reached out to grab me. He's big and tall, so he's more agile than me in the water. In the end, we caught him with the net. He still wanted to struggle. TSK, he's underestimating us. Xiao Bei said proudly. She climbed ashore and gestured with her hands and feet. When she said that she had dodged the person's movement, she even did a backflip on the ground. She meant that she had dodged the person with this posture. After dragging the person to Zhang Xiaobao, Xiao Bei did not speak, but she still looked like she was waiting to be praised. Little master, the person was caught. It was Xiao Bei and the others. When I found out, I was scared to death. If one of us was caught by the other party, I was scared to death. The local military personnel who dragged the person were still shocked by the 9 children's ability in the water. At the same time, they were very puzzled. Why did Xiao Bao let his younger brothers and sisters take the risk? What if something went wrong? Zhang Xiaobao seemed to know what the other party was going to say. Wei Wei smiled and said, Don't be afraid. If you want to hurt them in the water, even I might not be able to do it. The 9 people's fighting power in the water is much stronger than ordinary adults. Also, Zhang Xiaobao did not finish his words. After all, the other party was not his family. While he was talking, 4 people appeared at the place where Xiao Bei and the others were fighting. The 4 of them were also wearing water glasses. The color of the glasses was similar to the soil on the underwater shore. The same was true for the water suits they were wearing. There was also a tube connected to the 4 people's mouths. The tube was the same color as the soil. Each of them was holding an awl in their hands. After they came up, they took a detour and left. Obviously, they did not want Xiao Bei and the others to see them. These were the people Zhang Xiaobao arranged. A total of 16 people were arranged, and each group of 4 people rotated. He was afraid that his younger brothers and sisters would be hurt again. When they were in the lake, Zhang Xiaobao was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Wang Wan was the same. That was why they personally went to torture them. Their purpose was to vent their anger. From that moment on, the 2 of them paid more attention to their younger brothers' and sisters' safety. They knew that the little ones liked to swim, so they ordered people to prepare in advance. Wherever they went in the water, there had to be people guarding nearby. If they were discovered by their younger brothers and sisters, they would come out directly. If they were not discovered, they would continue to hide. Just now, when Xiao Bei's group of 9 were fighting with that person underwater, one of the 4 people clearly saw that that person didn't manage to catch anyone. Otherwise, he would have rushed over and hit him with an awl. Hearing her brother's words, Xiao Bei came over and held her brother's hand. She said, Brother, you don't know how dangerous it was just now. Luckily, I dodged at the critical moment. At that time, I was thinking that since he rushed over like that, I should. Good, you're brave and resourceful. After hearing his sister's exaggerated words, Zhang Xiaobao praised her. Xiao Bei embarrassedly twisted her body twice and said, Actually, it's not bad. It's mainly because brother taught me well. You two stop flattering each other. See how they are doing. Ask them if there's anyone above them, just in case someone hasn't come down yet. Wang Wan was amused by Xiao Bei's appearance. She looked at the person who had just been rescued and said this. I'm asking you, is there anyone above you? Xiao Bei circled around the person and asked. No, I'm not convinced. You have more people. You took advantage of my unpreparedness and won an unfair battle. The person who was caught by the neck was indignant. TCH, I'm not convinced. I'm much younger than you, and I'm not as strong as you. You dare to say that I ambushed you? Do you know who betrayed you? I was playing in the water and ambushing our people. In the end, he attacked us when we weren't paying attention. He was still knocked out by us. The winner takes all, and the loser takes all. Don't look for excuses. It's impossible for me to let you go. If I fought you fairly in the water, that's not confidence, that's recklessness. I only look at the results, not the process. That won't work on me. Xiao Bei did not fall for it. She even kicked the person a few times. She tilted her head and said, What can you do to me? The person wanted to say something, but he was dragged away by the others. They dragged him to a place far away from the children for interrogation. Although Xiao Bei and the others were used to seeing blood, they still had to avoid it. It would not be good if they were taught too much. Zhang Xiaobao looked at his younger siblings who still wanted to play in the water and said, Don't go down. We've caught the person, and this trip to Lu Mountain is coming to an end. We have other things to do when we get back. I'll take you to see the other 2 waterfalls on Lu Mountain today and tomorrow. It's time for you to settle down. Oh, Xiao Bei stopped and walked back with her head lowered. It was obvious she had not played enough. At the side, Wang Wan said, The next step is to take the land route to Luzhou. Come with us. There's still plenty to play on the way. When we arrive, there's the sea. You can continue swimming. Ha! Xiao Bei immediately cheered up. It was fine as long as they did not have to stay in one place. 2 days later, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan brought their younger siblings and set off for Xuanyang. At the same time, they had informed Hangzhou to let Li Longji take a boat over so that they could meet at the lake. After that, they would change to the land route and head to Luzhou. They would keep an eye on the railway. At the same time, they would let Li Longji have a good trip. Otherwise, Li Longji would never be allowed to look at the sea in the south, let alone go to the ends of the earth that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had named. They had another purpose in coming to Xuanyang. Their younger siblings had promised the people in Xuanyang that they would come up with ideas to increase the number of roads in the area. They wanted to see the actual situation there, so that they could come up with a solution. In Hangzhou, Li Longji was still accompanying Jiang Wang clan to do publicity every day. After the first day, Jiang Wang clan was addicted to it. The next day, she would still go out and tell others about the benefits of having more worries. After a few days, the news was no longer sealed. The news spread quickly. Some of the wealthier families brought their pregnant women to Hangzhou. They were not lacking in the price of the gifts they could get. Instead, they wanted to see Xiao Bao and Cuckoo's mother. Everyone had lives in their bellies. If they were close, they could absorb the immortal energy of others. Perhaps they could give birth to very smart children. When Zhang Xiaobao sent the news from Mount Lu to Hangzhou, Jiang Wang clan was talking to a woman who had come from Suzhou. She personally told the woman what to pay attention to when she was pregnant, and that she could not stay at home all the time. She needed to go to the clinic every once in a while to have a doctor take her pulse, or use a stethoscope to listen to her movements. There were no other medical devices at the moment, such as ultrasound. They could only rely on the tools and methods available. If the child in the womb was disabled, there was nothing they could do. They had to give birth to the child. Of course, if the child was stillborn, they could tell that it was missing a heartbeat. Even so, the people of Tang were very satisfied. At the very least, they were not afraid of dystocia. They also did not have to worry about accidentally hurting the child when they were doing things. Li Longji was at the side talking to the men of other pregnant women. He had completely let go of his status as the emperor. To be precise, he had changed to another way to reflect his status. When he met and talked to the people, no one would say that he was no longer the emperor. They would only say that he was closer to the people. An emperor who was in the hearts of the people was more convenient to carry out orders than an emperor who could only be imagined. Reporting, the matter at Mount Lu is over. The Bohai Jadushi has sent a message. Most of the enemies have been captured. Only a few are still hiding. There is no need to personally deal with the follow-up matters at the Jiangnan West Road. Your Majesty can set off in a few days and meet at Pengli Lake. While Li Longji was talking to the people around him about the importance of more children to Tang, a messenger squeezed in from outside and handed over the translated telegram. Wei Wei nodded to the people around him. Li Longji listened to the messenger and took the telegram. He said with satisfaction, "The matter at Mount Lu is also over? Xiaobao's actions are truly extraordinary. All those who are caught are former citizens of the Great Tang. All of them are to be sentenced severely. As for those from other countries, lock them up for us first. Wait until us decide on where to deploy our troops. You must remember that you must not betray the country, and you must not think of betraying the country. Otherwise, no one will be able to escape. Our Tang is united, so why would we betray you? We will not let you off easily." Li Longji's last words were naturally for the people who were listening to the message. The people nodded in agreement. They all felt that the troublemakers were too evil. The country was doing well, so why did they have to join forces with others to destroy it? Wouldn't the people of Tang be harmed in the end? Your Majesty, don't worry. I will definitely not do anything harmful to Tang. I even sent gifts to the school. Bad people can't escape." They thought that they were very smart. But when Xiaobao and Cuckoo made their move, they were all finished, right? They were all captured, right? Not only did they fail to harm others, they also harmed themselves. As soon as Li Longji finished speaking, someone in the crowd shouted. Li Longji looked in the direction of the voice and saw Wei Wei smiling. The people who were shouting were the inner court members of the Zhang family and Wang family. Previously, they were hiding in the crowd to monitor others, but now, they were showing their faces to echo Li Longji's words. Since there was a leader, the other people did not know what was going on. They all shouted and made promises. The scene was chaotic. Your Majesty, it's time to go back. We have to set off immediately, and we can't delay. The railway is of utmost importance, Wang Ju said. Let's go. Li Longji said and nodded at the people around him. Then he turned around and walked toward Wang Ju's mansion. Naturally, Madame Zhang and Madame Wang also went back with them. When they heard that the children had solved the problem, they were both happy and reluctant to leave. They still had to stay in Hangzhou until the children were born. They could not continue to follow Luzhou, although both of them missed the days when they lived in Luzhou. Little Bei's 4 children were born in Luzhou. At that time, they were forced by circumstances. It was also from then on that the first caesarean section was made in Tang Dynasty. However, it was likely that they could no longer go to Luzhou. Otherwise, Wang Ju would be suspicious and think that they had left. They would be worried about giving birth to their children here. Sister, how good would it be if we could go to Luzhou and give birth to our children? Little Yuan and little Zhu were born there. Wang Wan's mother said to Zhang family regretfully as she stroked her belly. Zhang family also wished to go to Luzhou. If they could go there back then, why couldn't they go now? Since they could not travel by land, they could travel by water. There were no strong winds or waves, and the boats at home were more than enough. Wang Ju sighed regretfully and said, I'll ask Xiaobao and see what Xiaobao has to say. Chapter 1104. 10 days later, Li Longji and the others arrived at the entrance of Pengli Lake. Along the way, they saw several fleets returning to Bohai Sea and hot air balloons flying away. The matter was almost over. People from all over the world couldn't stay in one place forever, especially in Bohai Sea. This time Japan was involved. If the gunboats didn't go back, people would think that Tang wasn't angry with them, and things would get worse in the future. Apart from Gao Lishir, Empress Wang Wu Huifei Pan and Wang Ju followed Li Longji. He wasn't an official in Hangzhou. He had skipped work and returned home. In the past he had a good relationship with Li Longji. Now that the past was in the past, he naturally had to follow Li Longji. As for his official position, he wasn't in a hurry. He would arrange it when he returned to the capital. He left the main meeting of the fishing association in Hangzhou to someone else. He also brought many fishing enthusiasts with him on the other ships. He said that he would take them to Luzhou to see the difference between the sea there and the sea in Jiangnan, and whether fishing was the same. To put it bluntly, he didn't want to give up the power in his hands. Although he was just a fishing enthusiast, those who could join the association were all rich people. Except for those who were good at fishing and who were here for money. If he controlled these people, it would be easier for him to communicate with Tang in the future. According to his grandson, he wanted to develop the Fishing Association into an international organization. Not only did he want to fish in Tang, but he also wanted to fish in the places where the army would attack in the future under the premise of protection. He wanted to use the Fishing Association as a huge force to manage. Wang Ju wasn't stupid at all. He immediately understood what his grandson was planning. It might not be difficult for the army to attack with the support of advanced weapons, but the difficult part was how to occupy the place. It was impossible to let the locals occupy the place. What if they were not close to Tang in the future? The best way was to move the people in the places where the war was over to Tang and send the people there. If the Zhang family and the Wang family and the imperial court were to pay for it, it would be too expensive. If he followed the angling association there, he would be able to get more fish that the Great Tang didn't have. He could bring them back and sell them for more money. Then he would be able to attract the members to find ways to get people to occupy space there. At the same time, it could promote the construction of roads and increase the speed of travel, so that the colonization period would not be too long. If the Great Tang in the past wanted to become independent, they would not be able to send soldiers over in a short amount of time, and they would have to switch back every few years. The future is still too far away. I don't know if I'll be able to see that day. Wang Ju sighed as she thought about the future. He was sitting with Li Longji on the highest floor of the ship, looking at the scenery. Li Longji heard what he said and asked, "What is it, Longji?" "Your Majesty, it is this subject who has thought about how, in the future, when the Great Tang occupies more land, it will be easier for soldiers to deploy. However, it will be difficult for the common people to move about in the land that they occupy, and it will be inconvenient for them to manage the land. The regional commanders will also be in danger of not obeying orders. This is truly difficult." Wang Ju shook his head and continued to sigh. Li Longji and Wei Wei were taken aback. Then they laughed and said, "You worry too much, Your Majesty. This is not a difficult matter. It's just a matter of building roads. Once the roads are built, you'll understand. The train is very fast. In the future, wherever the roads are built, the Great Tang can no longer send officials to punish them. That's not a punishment, it's a blessing." Gao Lisher smiled and said, "You're right, Your Majesty. Luzhou is the place where the officials are sent. Now the imperial court has stopped sending people to Luzhou. Once they are sent, the officials who are sent to Luzhou will take the ship directly to Luzhou. Their families are very happy, and they're waiting for the railway to be built. The land route will do as well. Yes, Luzhou is good. Xiaobao and the others are capable. A place that no one was willing to go to was turned into a place like this by them. There's also Hangzhou. There used to be many fishing villages, and life wasn't easy. Ever since the water transportation was developed and there were more ships, Hangzhou has become a bustling place. However, I heard that the steel used to build the railway was gathered by the Great Tang, and many places were damaged. If we don't use the railway and build other roads, the imperial court won't be able to provide enough money. If we don't have other medical and educational facilities, it would be fine. However, I don't think the Great Tang's money is enough now." Wang Ju flattered Li Longji before he talked about the difficulties of the imperial court, especially the issue of giving birth to children and helping to raise them. He had never thought about it before, and he did not dare to think about it. However, now that the imperial court had some money, he was worried that it would not be enough. Li Longji laughed heartily. "Hehe, it seems that you haven't been in contact with Xiaobao for long enough. You don't know Xiaobao's abilities. I've been with him for a long time, and I've come to realize that there's no need to spend the imperial court's money on cultivation. We can just spend the people's money and issue national bonds. When the roads are built, we can buy things from other places and sell them in Great Tang. That way we can return the interest from the national bonds. We can also let the merchants invest in the roads. When the roads are built, they will get a share of the benefits. When the goods are transported, they will get a share of the profits. In the future, When the imperial court is no longer in charge of the business, the roads will be charged. When the fees are collected, it will be over. Manpower is cheap as well. Give some food and some money from Great Tang, and people from other places will be more than willing to do the hard work. I don't think you'll understand if I tell you now. Let's talk on the road. When we return to the capital, come with me. I'll show you something good. It should be done by then. The officials of the imperial court will have a stake in it, after all. What kind of treasure is it? Wang Ju truly did not know how amazing the Bureau of Works could be. He only knew that the three most important departments in Great Tang were controlled by Xiaobao and Cuckoo. The first was the Agricultural Temple. It was in charge of the research on new plant species in Great Tang, and it was also in charge of agriculture and breeding. The second was the Great Tang Bank. It was in charge of the wealth of Great Tang, especially the taxes. The money was directly transferred to the bank, and there was no need to transport the copper coins to the capital. The money spent on the road was already a large portion. If the bank were to suddenly collapse, many people in Great Tang would cry. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was the lifeline of the country. The third was the Bureau of Works. The best craftsmen of Great Tang were gathered there, and there were many technologies and theories waiting for the craftsmen to learn. More importantly, it provided the technologies used by the military. Whoever controlled the Bureau of Works would be in charge of the weapons and future upgrades. Even the transmission of information was made by the Bureau of Works. It was said that a large proportion of them had been damaged during production, but money had still been invested into them. The importance of information was self-evident. Otherwise, there would be no need for the beacon towers. These three had always been in the hands of Xiaobao and Cuckoo, and they wielded great power. To put it bluntly, the two of them could even have the Emperor of Great Tang change his surname. After a war, they were certain to be the final victors. The things the Emperor was speaking of were probably from the Bureau of Works, because it was said that an official of the imperial court had invested money to establish a new company in the Bureau of Works. Is it because the steam engine has become smaller? Can it travel on the road like a carriage? Wang Ju pondered for a moment, and before anyone could answer, she asked. Qing is truly extraordinary. Although it's not the truth, it's not far off. It's something that can replace a carriage on the road, but not a smaller steam engine. No matter how small a steam engine is, it still needs to burn things. Where can it get water and combustible materials? Xiaobao and Cuckoo call it an internal combustion engine. It also needs water and combustible materials, but not much. When I came out, a finished product was already made, but it still needs some time before it can be used. The finished product is prone to spoilage due to the lack of skill. There are many technologies that Xiaobao and Cuckoo have mentioned that we don't have. There are some things that we can only use a file to create bit by bit. When Li Longji talked about technology, he was filled with worry. He was still worried that the other party had a country that was skilled in technology. Wang Ju asked in bewilderment, "File? Can something good be made with a file?" "That's right," Gao Lisher said. "Don't underestimate this file. Nowadays, when apprentices want to graduate, it's not like before. They learn more systematically. When they graduate, they are given an iron rod and a file. Apprentices have to make things according to various requirements. The more complicated the things they make, the higher their graduation evaluation, the better they can do in the future, and the higher their salary. The simplest one is to make a small hammer with these two things. Not only does the shape have to be correct, but it also has to be smooth to the touch." "Ah." Wang Ju opened his mouth and said in surprise, "One iron rod and a file. At the very least, they have to make a hammer like that? This is the simplest one, but what about the difficult one? How is that possible?" "Why is it impossible? I have personally seen them do it. Every other day, they will bring it to me for a look until they are done. In the future, the most important department in Tang will be called Tang Heavy Industries. The people who work there must have a certain level of ability. It will not be like now, where they have to deal with the people first. Xiaobao and Cuckoo's requirements are very high. Usually, when the workers are not using pressure tools, they can know the degree of sealing by blowing on it with their mouth. If there is a 0.2 mm error in the workpiece, they can tell by touching it with their hands or eyes and so on. Regardless of whether there are more advanced tools to measure, the workers have to do it with their own experience and ability. This is the foundation of the great Tang heavy industry. They said that in some places, the same parts can be assembled by different people, and the accuracy will be different even if they are given the same measuring tools. When Li Longji spoke, it was as if he was proud that the people in Great Tang's Ministry of Works could do it. On the other hand, Wang Ju was dumbfounded. How could the things that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were talking about be possible? As for the places that the emperor was talking about, it naturally referred to the places where the experts behind them came from. So that was the case. While Wang Ju was still in shock, the silhouettes of a fleet appeared on the lake, and it gradually grew larger. Your Majesty, Xiao Bao and the others are here. When Gao Lisher saw the fleet, he took the binoculars from the person beside him, and said to Li Longji, "They're only here now? We thought that they would be waiting for us, but they actually made us wait. When we meet later, let's see how we deal with them." Li Longji said in dissatisfaction. After waiting for a little more than 15 minutes, the two fleets finally met up. A long rope was tossed over, and someone immediately laid down a rolled-up wooden planks. Using the rope, the wooden planks were threaded together like a mat. As soon as the wooden planks were laid down, a small figure ran over from the opposite side and threw herself into Li Longji's arms, saying, "Uncle Emperor, I missed you so much." "Did you miss me? Did you? If you didn't, then I'll be unhappy." "Io, be gentle." Yes, I missed you. I missed you during the day, at night, and when you were eating. Let me see, did you lose weight? No, you actually became heavier. How did you eat?" Li Longji hugged the slightly taller Xiao Bei and said happily, "I'm still young, and I'm still growing. Of course I'm heavier. I'm not fat at all. I trained my body, and I even caught people in the water. We're amazing. Brother Xiaohai was injured, and Uncle Emperor wants to take revenge for us. But you're not allowed to talk about my brother and sister." Xiao Bei waved her fists and said that she caught people in the water. Li Longji just said that he would deal with them when they came. At this moment he quickly said, "I won't deal with them. Your brother and sister have done a great service, and you have also done a great service. If you want a reward, tell me, what do you want?" "What do I want? I don't know what I want. I just want to see Uncle Emperor happy. I'll discuss it with them later. We won't ask for it for free. When Lu Zhou arrives, we'll personally go into the sea to get food for Uncle Emperor. We'll let Big Brother cook for us, okay?" Xiao Bei pretended to be thinking. After thinking for a while, she still could not think of what reward she wanted. Previously, she was only thinking about the reward. "What about me?" Wang Ju asked when he saw his granddaughter pouncing to the emperor's side as soon as she arrived. "Ah, grandfather, you're good too. Grandfather, let me tell you." Xiao Bei left Li Longji's side and jumped into Wang Ju's arms again. She did not want to offend anyone. While they were talking, the other children, including Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, also came over. Panner and her brother, who were originally in the cabin, also ran over and shouted happily. The two of them could already remember people, and knew that the person in front of them was their father. They looked around for their mother. "Zhang Xiaobao, Military Governor Zhang Xiaobao, how dare you make me wait for you? Tell me, what punishment do you deserve?" Li Longji glared at Zhang Xiaobao when he saw him. "Io, this subject asks for your Majesty's forgiveness. This subject deserves 10,000 deaths. This subject should first put aside the matter of the people of Xuanyang, and come here to wait for your Majesty. This subject will go back, and tell the people of Xuanyang that I won't do what I promised them until your Majesty calms down. What do you think, your Majesty?" Zhang Xiaobao bowed and begged for forgiveness. "Don't use the people to scare me. Let me ask you, how do you want to end this matter?" Li Longji asked about the captured people. Chapter 1105. Your Majesty, it would be better to first discuss the matter of the common people of Xuanyang. In the last few days, this subject has racked his brains and finally thought of a plan that can compensate for the losses suffered by the common people of Xuanyang. This subject's brother and sister have taken great care of us, so the common people should be the most important. Hearing Li Longji ask about how to deal with the surrounding countries, Zhang Xiaobao frowned. He and Wang Wan still hadn't thought clearly about what strategy to use against whom. The implications were too great, so it wasn't as simple as dealing with the common people. Wang Wan also nodded. She admitted that it was very simple for her and Zhang Xiaobao to deal with the matter of Xuanyang. In truth, it was the same in the past. If they had truly sent the scholars of the various research departments to a single county to do research, in a situation where there was no exchange of benefits, it was very easy to raise the local economy. The reason they didn't do that, besides the exchange of benefits between the various powers, was that capable people would not want to go to a place to do small things. It was beneath their status. It was not as important as being a think tank, scheming with other colleagues, or dealing with the country's large environmental construction. Selfishness, it was that simple. At this time, she and Zhang Xiaobao did not need to exchange benefits with others. Even the officials of the imperial court, who represented their families or powers, could not pose a threat to the two of them. If anyone dared to cause trouble, they would be killed. How simple was that? Thus, calming down and inspecting the local economic structure and human resources was quite easy for them to come up with a good idea. Li Longji looked at Wang Wan. Seeing Wang Wan's pensive expression, he also raised his eyebrows and said, "Xiaobao, foreign affairs are the most important. Don't complain to us. Dealing with a small place like Xuanyang requires you to put so much thought into it. If so, we will take back the authority in your hands to prevent you from overworking yourself." This year, in the east and west of Jiangnan, all the officials who have not been caught will be demoted by 1 rank. Those who have just taken office will be warned, deducted subsidies. We will not listen to their explanations. They will say that they have just taken office and are not familiar with the situation. What were they thinking before taking office? How did they write the plan for taking office? This year, all the newly promoted officials will be demoted by 2 ranks and have their salaries deducted for 2 years. If they do not perform well next year, they will be removed from office. If they enter the lower ranks, they will be killed. Did they really think that they had nothing to do with the hidden dangers that occurred in the places they used to stay after they were promoted? According to what you and Cuckoo have said, if an official carries out a policy, it will show results in a short period of time. But not long after, it will cause problems for the people and money, and they will be held responsible. What you said to Cuckoo is very good. You need political achievements to be promoted, but you shouldn't do it for the sake of political achievements. The eyes of the people are as clear as snow, and I am not blind. In a few years, the first 2 batches of children from Chaoyang Action School will be able to become officials. In the future, when they become local officials, they will still carry out their policies despite knowing that they could harm the lives of the people. If they harm 1 person, I will kill them as well. The Tang Empire lacks other things, but it definitely doesn't lack officials. If it really doesn't work, I will use your family's inner court to replace them. Oh, is it because the gun is not accurate? Speak, Xuanyang, what do you want to do? Speak boldly. Even if it's wrong, we will not kill you and Cuckoo. If the plan is to double the people's income in 3 years, after 3 years, if the people's income is not doubled, the 2 of you will pay for it yourselves. We will be magnanimous toward you, right? Then what if the plan is to double the income, but the result is to triple the income? Zhang Xiaobao asked. First, it shows that your calculations are not accurate. If you can double the income this time, you might double the income next time. If it's a problem with your ability, you will be fine to help you correct it. Second, you deliberately concealed the information, which is the crime of deceiving the emperor. You underreported the data and did not do your best. You are not willing to take responsibility, so you will be fine to help you correct it. Li Longji said with a serious expression. Empress Wang, who had come out of the cabin to see her son and daughter, couldn't help but laugh when she heard Li Longji's words. Wu Huifei also covered her mouth with her hand, but her eyes were smiling. Zhang Xiaobao nodded as if he had accepted his fate. All right, this subject understands. Your Majesty, your plan is truly ingenious. This subject admires it greatly. In other words, as long as I am kind-hearted enough to come up with some ideas, I will have to bear the risk of being fined, right? Yes, Qing is indeed extraordinarily intelligent, ha-has. Li Longji also laughed as he spoke. The haze that had clouded his heart over the past few days because of the incident in Jiangnan seemed to have been swept away. Xiao Bao, Cuckoo, the unparalleled scholars of the nation, but that's all there is to it. Oh, not unparalleled, it should be my Tang, 2 swords in harmony. Let me guess, what is your plan? Xuanyang, Linjiang and Peng Lake, so it must be based on water transportation. Xiao Bao's plan is consecutive, so I'll mention a few things. First, the shipbuilding industry. Taking advantage of the geographical advantage, it is easy to test ships. The lake has flat waves, while the river has rough waves. The newly built ships can be tested on both types of water. Second, the docks. Back then, when your family bought the Xiaoyuoshui River north of Sanshui County, the first thing you used was various kinds of relatively advanced loading and unloading tools. Now that the Ministry of Works has advanced technology, using them at the Xuanyang docks, the results are particularly good. You can also work with the shipbuilding industry to design the number of ships that can be loaded at the docks. Third, tourism. The scenery of Mount Lu is beautiful, and you can arrange for tour guides to wait at the docks. The roads are smooth, and travel is convenient. Just the food and lodging alone is not a small amount of income. The above 3 points can be said to be interlinked. What do you think? Li Longji seemed to have forgotten the pain after his wounds healed. As long as he was facing Zhang Xiaobao, he would definitely think of a way to win through strategy. Although he had never succeeded, he still enjoyed it. Your Majesty's plan is good. Wang Ju immediately began to flatter. Xiaobao, this subject admires you the most when it comes to strategy. However, Your Majesty is always able to point out the key points. This subject is inferior. Xiaobao, is this what you think? Zhang Xiaobao smacked his lips twice but didn't say anything. Wang Wen covered her mouth with her hand and laughed. When Wang Ju saw this, he said, "Is it not? Your Majesty's plan is one that benefits the country." Enough, don't say any more. We've been looked down upon again. Consort Huifei, what do you say? Li Longji knew that he had failed again, so he gloomily asked Consort Wu Huifei. That was because Consort Wu Huifei had also begun to study this. Your Majesty, this subject's consort actually has the same idea as Your Majesty. However, this subject's consort can add on one point. If the 2 sides of the Yangtze River cooperate with each other, they can glide high up in the sky and transport goods back and forth. The quantity is small each time, but it can be transported continuously. This is more convenient and safer than ships. Since this is the case, perhaps there is no need for Xiaobao to think about what this subject's consort can think of. Right now, there is already a shipyard in the middle of the lake, and the tourist route is also continuing to be improved. There is no need to talk about the docks. Xiaobao's compensation is to provide timely assistance, not to add flowers to embroidery. It is the local official's job to come up with a plan on top of what has already happened. It is not Xiaobao's wish. Consort Wu Huifei followed Li Longji's suggestion and brought up another point. At the side, Empress Wang and Gao Lishir had smiles on their faces, as if they already knew. Wang Ju, on the other hand, was slightly embarrassed. He had only wanted to curry favor, but he had probably failed. However, he still had doubts in his heart. He admitted that his grandson and granddaughter-in-law were formidable, but no matter how formidable they were, there had to be a limit. His grandson's idea of setting up the fishing association was not bad, but it was making something out of nothing. The 2 of them were also skilled at investigating people, but they were also meticulous and skilled. Right now, they were talking about the livelihood of the people of Xuanyang. Xuanyang did not have long legs to run elsewhere. It had been there since ancient times. Other than the convenience of water transportation and the ability to build ships, what else could they have thought of? Fishing? Someone had already done this before. Since it was just adding flowers to embroidery, they naturally would not tell others to continue fishing, unless there was a better method. Oh, there was also the matter of pearl farming in freshwater. There were many freshwater lakes in the Great Tang that were suitable for pearl farming. Now that there was the technology, this was also not a good idea. Pondering, Wang Ju asked his grandson, "Xiaobao, Did the Ministry of Works come up with a new fishing technology? Are they going to use it? Grandfather, the fishing technology is under the management of the Agriculture Temple. They do have the technology, but it can't be used in the rivers of the Great Tang. It can be used with electricity, explosives, drugs, and many advanced fishing nets. If it's used, it won't take long. Within 5 years, there will be no fish left in the Great Tang. It's better to leave something for future generations. Not to mention rivers and lakes, even the surrounding seas will be emptied if it's used. We have to catch fish, prawns, and crabs as fast as they are born. Lu Zhou's fishing efficiency is very high, and he has many fishing boats. However, he also has to set a fishing holiday. It's the same for the hawksbill turtles in the sea. If we seek temporary pleasure, we will be scolded by future generations. Zhang Xiaobao now cherished the things he saw that were already extinct at that time. One should leave a way out. There was no need to kill everything. It was not for others, but for one's own descendants. When Wang Ju saw his grandson's objection, he asked, "This won't do, that won't do. What other good ideas can you come up with?" "I don't believe it." "Grandfather, you're right. I don't have any good ideas. I just want to help the local people find some work and earn more money. I can't catch the fish too much, but I can raise them like pearls. The fish raised are easier to catch and they grow faster. We can let the people near the lake raise them. We have the tools and technology now. It's not necessary to raise them in deep water. Shallow water is fine too. It's just that many people haven't thought of it," Zhang Xiaobao explained. Wang Ju looked enlightened. He said, "Are you asking the people in Xuanyang to raise them?" "That's right, but what about cereal schemes? Haven't you always used cereal schemes?" "Cereal schemes? Grandfather, it's all what other people said. I don't need that title. I just want to do something for the people. It doesn't matter if I'm cereal or not. I'm a person." "Enough, Xiaobao, I'll say it for you." Wang couldn't help but interject. Xiaobao isn't planning on having the people in Xuanyang raise things. He wants to set up a few processing factories in Xuanyang, separating the bones, skin, and meat of the fish and processing them. The resulting products can be used in industry and agriculture. At the same time, there's also a place to research and process cosmetics. Freshwater farming can have pearls, seaweed, fish oil, and so on. In addition, the oil from the animals of Mount Lu, like snakes, can also be processed into things that are good for the body. He can use these things to drive the local industrial chain. At the same time, he can also help the surrounding areas with industries that are lacking. Besides processing, he can also collect and manage the medicinal herbs on the surface of the water. Wang Ju was confused, but Li Longji was dumbfounded. It really was extraordinary. He asked, "Anything else?" "Of course. When did Xiaobao ever use cereal schemes?" Wang proudly said. Chapter 1106. Wang's pride came from the depths of her heart. Other people might have already assumed that Zhang Xiaobao should be like this. But she was well aware that Zhang Xiaobao had experienced far too many things, and his usual job was to figure out how to swindle others. If one wanted to swindle others, one had to first understand the situation of the place and the various factors involved. Otherwise, how could one succeed in swindling others? Others weren't fools. It could be said that any swindler who could swindle an official, if they calmed down and earnestly did their work, would be able to achieve some success. It was just that they found the return period to be too long and the investment too large. And even if Zhang Xiaobao didn't stand at the peak of this industry, he was still in existence at the very top of the organization that couldn't be ignored. In the past he had done many bad things, and of course he had also done many good things. But ever since he had followed her to the Great Tang, he had never used the methods he had in the past to target the common people of the Great Tang. This was a pride that belonged to her, and also a pride that belonged to both of them. On this journey, while she didn't dare say that everything she did was correct, she definitely had a clear conscience. While Wang was in a state of pride, the others were anxious. Wang Ju had never imagined that his grandson would come up with such an idea. Feeling that it wasn't magnanimous enough, he impatiently asked, "Cuckoo, why is it a small workshop in the processing industry?" A small workshop in the processing industry? Wang Wan came to her senses and repeated the concept in bewilderment. Flabbergasted, she asked, "Grandfather, you think it's a small matter?" "Naturally." Wang Ju nodded. "The things that other people grow, the things they find in the mountains, the things they raise in the rivers and lakes. If you take them to do odd jobs, how much money can the common people of Xuanyang earn?" "How much money?" Xiaobao's idea is to build a center around Xuanyang that gathers all the surrounding resources for precision processing and distribution. It will drive all the industrial chains in the Xuanyang area. Even if there's a stall selling yuntan in Xuanyang, it will make a fortune in the future. For a moment, Wang Wan felt that she couldn't explain it clearly to Wang Ju. There were too many things involved, and it was difficult for Wang Ju to understand with just a few words. Not to mention fine processing. Even if she provided a supplementary ration, once it was done on a large scale, the economic benefits would be frightening. Moreover, Xuanyang's geographical location was blessed by the heavens. If he and Xiaobao had been born in Xuanyang, they would have developed even faster. How could that shabby Sanshui county compare to this place? But Wang Ju still couldn't understand how a simple processing industry could help the people of Xuanyang earn so much money. "Ju, I'll give you a book later. It's a political economy book written by Cuckoo and Xiaobao. Take some time to read it. You'll know everything when you read it." Cuckoo continue. When Li Longji saw Wang Ju's expression, he suddenly felt that his intelligence had increased. Although he couldn't guess Xiaobao's idea, he could at least understand what Cuckoo was saying. He was much better than someone who couldn't understand at all. When Wang Ju saw the expressions of the emperor and the others, he knew that they understood everything. He was the only one who still didn't understand. Thus, he humbly nodded and said no more. Wang Wan continued, "Then there's the local processing technology. Moreover, the work of the physically weak, such as the elderly and women of the family, they will be responsible for looking after things. At the same time, they will use their free time to weave things like willow weaves. They will use branches, reeds, and bamboo to weave boxes of different sizes. The shapes will be as uniform as possible. In the future, they will slowly develop into unique handicrafts. If there are idle people in the family, they will have to run a snack stall. In the future, there will be more people coming and going from Xuanyang. The cost of running a restaurant will be too high, so it won't be easy to run. The snack stall will invest less, but the return will be faster. Cuckoo, isn't it like Hongnon County's Old Willow Village? When the time comes, Xiaobao will come up with a good advertising slogan. Old Willow Village's slogan was thought of by Xiaobei and the others. It's called Grow a Doll of Your Own. What is Xuanyang? Wu Huifei followed along, appearing very engrossed in her thoughts. She thought that Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao were repeating Old Willow Village's idea. Wang Wan lightly shook her head. There's no need. Old Willow Village's development can be replicated, but Xuanyang doesn't need it. As long as Xuanyang does it, it will definitely make money. If the locals don't want to sell, others will force them to buy. This is because the railway passes through Xuanyang. I know that the railway passes through Xuanyang, but that's the work of transporting goods. Wang Ju also knew. I've asked around. The Great Tang has brought in quite a few people from other places, especially Japan. There are also aboriginals from overseas, as well as Kunlun slaves and so on. When the train passes by a river, the small river will use iron and cement to build a sturdy bridge. The large river will transfer to the ship, and the carriages will be transported over and reassembled. I heard that they also need to blow up mountains and dig ditches. Quite a few people will die. Very good. They won't use the people of my Great Tang. Since they want to pass through Xuanyang, they probably need to sail on the river. Why don't they increase the number of people at the docks to help transport goods? From the south, it's impossible to transport all the goods to Luoyang and the capital. By the time they reach Xuanyang, the Yangtze River will require even more goods. The train will unload a portion of the goods, load them with local specialties, and continue north. I believe that increasing the labor force is better. As Wang Ju spoke, he gestured. He seemed to be imagining the scene of the Xuanyang docks bustling with people, constantly transporting goods. It was a scene of prosperity. Also, can they build a railway from the south to the north in a year? The journey is long, and there are many places with mountains and rivers. Can the Ministry of Works' technology really do it? Wang Ju once again began to have doubts about the railway. Wang Wan glanced at Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao took a deep breath and said, "To tell the truth, it can be built. But if 1 million people were to build the railway without any regard for the cost, I estimate that less than 10 or 20% of them would survive. In special circumstances, they would even need to increase the number of people. The Ministry of Works' technology is far from enough, so what should we do? When we reach the small river, we build the bridge. When we reach the large river, we blow up the mountain. No matter how many people die, even if we have to use human lives to fill in the gaps, we still have to build the railway. When the railway is finished, it can be said that every inch of railway is an inch of blood. When the two wheels turn, they truly go against the harmony of the heavens. But so what? Cuckoo and I will take it on ourselves. We have never thought that our hands would be stained with blood. So what if we get stained with it again?" Zhang Xiaobao looked at Wang Wan toward the end of his words. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Their meaning was to let the history books scold them. They believed that the people of Great Tang would remember what happened. Whatever others say, let them say it. In any case, this was what they were going to do, and they could do whatever they wanted. Wang Wan said with a smile, "Yes, this road will be built. Normally, it would take more than 2 years according to the rules of a certain time in another place. But we will definitely finish it in 1 year. When there are too many lice, we don't mind being bitten. And when there are too many resentful ghosts, we are not afraid of being entangled. Whoever dares to stop us, Xiaobao and I will destroy gods and demons." The words of the two of them made Li Longji and the others gasp. Even the emperor of a generation felt his liver tremble when he heard Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan say that they would scam millions of people. It was even worse than Bai Qi. Suddenly, Li Longji thought of the rules that Wang Wan said at a certain time. He asked, "Cuckoo, where and when were the rules?" "It's the place at that time." Wang Wan gave an answer. She believed that Li Longji would understand. The railway that she and Zhang Xiaobao wanted to build was similar to the route in the past. Even with the technology at that time, it still took more than 2 years to build, not to mention the difficulty of building it now. However, the process of building it was different. At that time, people died because they were not careful. For example, when they were blowing up a mountain, if there was really danger, they would stop and use other methods to solve the problem. The two of them did not need to do that. If there was a dud during the explosion, they would continue to blow it up and were not allowed to stop. Even if the dud suddenly went off just as they were passing by, they would throw the debris aside. The people behind them would still have to step in and hit the holes of the cannon. When opening up the road, there were too many rocks. Even if they had to carry them, they would have to clear the place. After all, the people who died were not from Great Tang, so what was there to be afraid of? As for other people dying, what could they do? They could even throw an atomic bomb. After they threw it, wouldn't the place where they were thrown be like a grandson hugging a thigh? This was how countries worked. If you were strong, you could slap the other party, and the other party would have to smile and ask you if your hand hurt. If you were a coward, even if you didn't slap the other party would still slap you. You could never hope to treat the weak well when you were strong. Once you were weak and the other party became strong, they would still treat you well. Li Longji didn't know that he had been tricked all this time. He thought that the two of them were talking about that country. That country had built such a long railway, and even with more advanced technology than Great Tang, it still took more than 2 years. His Great Tang had to be faster. It was no wonder Xiaobao and Cuckoo were willing to use human lives to build the railway. Right, even if their technology was inferior to others, they still had to have their own ability to do things. If that's the case, we will think of a way to find people to build the railway. However, if your clan is willing to fork out the money, we will give you other things. Who will be willing to use them? Li Longji hardened his confidence, but he was also worried that he didn't have enough money. He couldn't possibly return the money after the other party took out the money, so he could only offer other benefits. "Your Majesty, we have enough money. We didn't spend any money on the ores used to smelt the steel. We used the name of the imperial court to mine the ores, and we also didn't need to spend any money on the coal and other materials. The only thing we need is the transportation fee. There's also the labor fee. Even if the labor fee isn't used on the smelting, they can still do other things and earn money. Seeing that Li Longji was once more worried about money, Zhang Xiaobao spoke some words of reassurance. They didn't need much money in the first place. How much money did Jingjiu spend? There were many materials that didn't need money. The only thing that worried him was the speed of the construction. The other party had many railways in Jingjiu, and they weren't starting from scratch. Right now, Great Tang only had a single railway from Luoyang to the capital. In a different place, besides not caring about the lives and deaths of people, the local authorities wouldn't have any disputes, and the people would cooperate if they had to move aside. Without the difficulty of moving people, all they had to do was tell the people that they had to move aside, and the people would be very willing to move. They would even volunteer to help. Thinking of the advantages and disadvantages of the present and the past, Zhang Xiaobao said to Wang Wan, "If we're building the railway, the people of Great Tang can help with some of the less dangerous work, such as transporting the stones or carrying wood from other places. We can choose the stones for construction purposes, or we can use them to make cement. This can be used to offset the wages of the people. As for the people from other places, they don't need to be paid. The Japanese are using technology points to tempt them, and the same goes for the other places. I think that's fine, but with the Japanese dead, we probably won't be able to earn back the technology points. We still haven't settled the debt with them for this matter, and there's also that group of small countries in the southwest that can't be considered countries. Once we're free, none of them will be able to escape." Wang Wan followed Zhang Xiaobao's train of thought, and felt that it was feasible. Although it would delay the time of the Great Tang people, once the railway was built, the returns would be great. Hearing the two talk about this matter, Li Longji said, "Xiaobao, Cuckoo, we can't just ignore the matter of them working together to cause trouble, right? In the past, we would have already sent people to attack them, but now we need to see what the two of you think. In the past, you were still arguing with the Turks and Tibetans, and you even wanted to launch an expedition to Japan and start a full-scale war? Besides, they weren't forced to this point in the past, and it was equally difficult for them to send messages. So why would they think of working together? The people of Great Tang have become smarter, and they're learning from them." Zhang Xiaobao criticized inwardly. Then he said to Li Longji, "Cuckoo and I are thinking that we won't take a stand for the time being. We'll pass on the news to them through civilian channels and see how they react. We'll let them know that their plan has failed, but we won't do anything to give them some psychological pressure." Good plan. In that case, we'll continue to Luzhou and have someone pass on the news to them. We'll loosen the lockdown and lock up the captured people for the time being. We won't be judged or shown in public, and we'll act as if nothing happened." Li Longji immediately understood. The imperial court could not act as if they were angry. If that happened, the other places would send people to shirk responsibility and say that they were unaware, and that it was someone else's doing. Then, they would put themselves in the position of being wronged and ask for punishment. The imperial court was in a difficult spot. They could say that they were not going to attack, but if they attacked in the future, they would not be able to pass on the surface. They could say that they were going to attack, but they knew that they could not. If they really attacked, it would disrupt Xiaobao and Cuckoo's overall plan. Wang Ju sighed and said, "It's a pity that my Great Tang has too few capable people. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter even if we had to fight an all-out war." Gao Lisha retorted, "The Great Tang has no lack of capable people. Any of the generals it sends out will be enough to win. Coupled with the advanced weapons, it's simply impossible to lose a war. But fighting a war will cost a lot of money. At the same time, we can't send out too many elite soldiers. Those who aren't elite can't even shoot properly. In the past, even if we won a war, many people would die. The Great Tang is currently lacking in manpower and can't afford to do that." Exactly. The present can't be compared to the past. Back then when we fought Tubo, it was Tubo who constantly harassed my Great Tang. In order to defeat them, this is not a question of victory or defeat, but a question of payment and return. My great Tang can't have too many casualties, but it can't have too few benefits. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo already have plans for the Southwest, and they have plans for Japan as well. Once they're carried out, the benefits won't be any less than if we just attacked them, so why should we immediately send out soldiers? They can't compare to Duoshire. My great Tang's true threat comes from that religious country. Their territory is large, they have many people, and they have many soldiers. Dealing with them is of the utmost importance. If we have the money from fighting Japan, it's better to use it at home. Li Longji understood that Japan was on the verge of being finished. Those merchants the great Tang had sent over had already occupied all the places they should have, and the Japanese economy had been dealt a massive blow. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo would use the least amount of effort to take Japan as quickly as possible. As for the small countries in the southwest, the great Tang had not sent anyone to occupy them. It was better to act according to the information the two of them had given them. First, they would wear them down and make their hearts uneasy. When they had the time, they could deal with them later. Empress Wang was very interested in war. Rubbing the heads of her son and daughter, she smiled and said, "It's said that the best strategy is to defeat plans. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are exactly like this. They say that they want to subdue the enemy without fighting, but the great Tang is fighting without fighting. It is not a war of soldiers, but it can still subdue the enemy. In a situation where military force is the guarantee, economic warfare is even more formidable. Using the excuse of helping others to harm them is the best strategy. Xiao Bao Cuckoo, you said that you would take care of Japan this year. What other methods do you have?" Zhang Xiaobao thought for a moment before replying, "I haven't thought about it yet. We'll discuss it later." Seeing that there was nothing else to ask, Li Longji urged Zhang Xiaobao to start cooking. "Think about what to cook first. We will eat later. You made us wait for quite some time. We are already hungry." See, the more you know, the more tired you get. Even if you know something in the future, you have to play dumb. Do you understand? Zhang Xiaobao said to his brothers and sisters, and then he went to the galley to cook. 2 days later, in the morning, everyone arrived at the southernmost shore of Lake Peng. This place was a mountain. Since they had changed to traveling by land, they naturally had to travel through the mountains. In the past, the officials who were sent to Lingnan had to travel this way. The mountain road was difficult to travel. Many people were tortured to death before they could reach their destination. Some people were chased by an imperial edict before they could reach their destination. Li Longji also had to go this time. However, he was different from the people who were sent to Lingnan. He didn't have to worry about miasma or wild beasts, and he didn't need to be in a hurry to travel. His Jinwu guards had a scale of 3,000 people. Wang Ju's family also sent 500 guards, as well as eunuchs and palace maids. In total, there were more than 5,000 people. In addition to their troops, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Ju had even more troops. The 9 Children's Protection Team had 1,000 people. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan directly brought along 5,000 guards. In addition to the helpers who were transporting things, the total number of troops was close to 30,000. It could be said to be a mighty force. If it was in the past, it would be a waste of money and manpower. However, now it was all paid for by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. When they reached a certain place on the road, the common people wouldn't curse in their hearts. Not to mention that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were here. Even if the two of them weren't that famous, the common people would still be very happy. They didn't need to fork out money. Wherever the troops passed, there would naturally be people in front of them who would build a simple road. For Li Longji, it was a simple road. For the common people, it was a wide road that led to the sky. It would be convenient for them to go out in the future. Moreover, the troops didn't spare the common people. On the contrary, the common people would harass the troops. When they knew who was coming, the common people took the initiative to take out the food they thought was good. There were game from the mountains and chickens and ducks that they raised at home. In just 3 days, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan received more than 4,000 chicken eggs, more than 1,000 duck eggs, and nearly 700 goose eggs. Some were salty while others were bland. It was as though they were celebrating the Dragon Boat Festival. Little Bei and the other 11 children also received a lot of ham, bacon, and pheasants. There was even a tiger that was smaller than the Manchurian tiger. It was a South China tiger. It was alive. Nobody knew how the locals caught it. They couldn't refuse it even if they wanted to. The common people stood there with their things and watched the others build the road. Then, the troops came over and looked at them eagerly. They did not make a sound. Some of the things they wanted to give were placed at their feet while others were held in their hands. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan did not refuse anyone. They accepted the gifts that the common people gave them. If the troops were not moving fast, they would even talk to the common people. Little Bei sang a song and danced for the common people. Since they accepted the tiger, they naturally had to treat the common people better. Today was the 6th day on the shore. They were still far away from Luzhou. When it was almost noon, a group of local people appeared on the simple road that had just been built. They stood by the side of the road, holding the household registration documents in their hands and waiting. The household registration was something that people thought of on the second day. In case there was an assassination attempt, in addition to a body search, they also needed to show their identification. Naturally, the people who were building the road in front of them were sent to check. They had to make sure that it was safe. This time, the local people did not bring too many things. They only brought a large cage made of wood. There were 2 black bears in it, and they were still alive. It seemed that the news of the tigers being sent to them had spread. The people here felt that it was not good to send eggs or other things. It would be embarrassing, so they brought something more powerful. When they got closer, they saw someone holding up a banner with the words Sen Xiaobao and Cuckoo Bears written on it. The handwriting was not very nice. With just a glance, one could tell that the handwriting was far from good. When Li Longji saw the words, his expression darkened again. It had been 6 days. Ever since they came to shore, the common people had never given him anything. They were all given to Xiaobao, Cuckoo, Little Bei, and the others. He was the emperor. He did not believe that the common people would not give him anything when they knew that he was here. It was not that he was greedy. At the very least, he would be happy to receive a gift. Xiaobao, this isn't good. You're always accepting gifts from the common people. What do you expect the common people to do? Don't think that the common people's gifts are nothing just because you're rich. However, to the common people, these gifts are enough to last them many days. If you accept them, what are they going to eat? Li Longji could not tell the people who gave the gifts, so he told Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao knew what Li Longji was thinking. It was probably because he did not receive anything. He looked at the 2 bears in the cage and said, Your Majesty is right. A few days ago, we accepted their gifts. We arranged for people to dig a canal for them, repair their houses, and clean up the roads in the village. We also gave them candy and other things. However, they gave us too little. Last time, there were many people in the village, more than 100 households. In return, we gave them dried fruits and other things. Now that there are 2 bears, there are only 31 households in the village. It was not easy for them to catch 2 bears. If they really sold them, it would be enough for their village to live a good life for a year. Therefore, it is not enough to just repair their houses and give them dried fruits. It is not good to give them money. Your Majesty, please think of a solution. I will do it. It's not like they are giving it to me. What can I do? Whoever accepted the gifts can give me ideas. Otherwise, don't accept them. Li Longji was like a child at this moment. Yes, your Majesty is right. We have to give them something. What should we give them? I accepted their gifts. Aya, they are really too much. Why do they have to give it to us? Give it to your Majesty. Your Majesty will think of a good solution when the time comes. Aya. Zhang Xiaobao deliberately angered Li Longji. Empress Wang, who was beside him, came down from the pole and said to Li Longji with a smile, Your Majesty, the commoners feel that you are of noble status and have seen everything. Naturally, they look down on the gifts they gave. Xiaobao and Cuckoo are different. They are not yet in their 20s. No matter what, they are still children. Xiao Bei and the others are even more so. Think about it. The commoners must feel that you eat well in the palace, live well, and use good things. If they give you some eggs, they are looking down on your status. Can you be short of money? I am not short of money, but Xiao Bao and the others are short of money? The commoners know that I am the emperor and eat and drink well. Do you think that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo have reached the point where they do not have enough to eat? Do you believe it? If the commoners really think so, I will admit that the Zhang family and the Wang family are the poorest families in the Great Tang. They are so poor that they only have money left. Li Longji said angrily. He just could not understand why the commoners did not give him anything. Xiao Bei hurriedly jumped over from the side and said to Li Longji, Uncle Emperor, I think it's because the commoners think that your status is too high, so they don't dare to give you anything. That's called tribute. Tribute is controlled by the local government, so how could the commoners dare to do so? If you don't believe me, just wait. I'll go and ask. After saying this, Xiao Bei ran over. From a few feet away, she looked at the black bear in the cage and found a boy who was 2 or 3 years older than her. She asked, Did you write this? I am Zhang Xiaobai. The boy was very strong. With one look, one could tell that he did not lack nutrition. His face was rosy and he was wearing clothes made from the fur of an unknown animal. Just a moment ago, she was standing there like an adult with a bow hanging from her shoulder. When she saw Xiao Bei and heard Xiao Bei's voice, she immediately became bashful. Her face turned even redder. She lowered her head and softly hummed in reply. The adult beside him was anxious. Xiao Bei is talking to you. Can't you say a few words? This prodigal child could be considered the king of children in the surrounding villages. He was very capable and efficient, but now he did not know how to speak. Xiao Bei seemed to have seen this kind of thing many times and did not care. She continued to talk to the boy. Your handwriting is very good. Uncle Emperor even praised you just now. He said that it would be better if you wrote a few words for him. Do you want to write? Say something right. I will have someone bring you the 4 treasures of the study. If you don't write, I will go back. Right. The boy's face was flushed red. He finally squeezed out a word from the gaps of his teeth. Wait, I will go back and get it. Xiao Bei turned around and ran away. She found someone and asked for something. She had someone bring a board over and grinded some ink for the boy to write. Li Longji also came over and looked at the words on the scroll. He nodded his head against his will to express his appreciation. In his heart, he was thinking that if his own child could write like this, he would have to beat them to death to vent his anger. Even Pan learning to write her own name with a pencil was better than this. It's good that he can write. It's not like he didn't know how to write in the past. I can't compare all children to the children taught by Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. Li Longji thought to himself. The boy became even more nervous. His hand trembled as he held the brush. He looked at the paper and asked Xiao Bei, Write, what should I write? Write whatever you want. In any case, this is for Uncle Emperor. Write whatever you think of His Majesty. Don't worry, Uncle Emperor is very kind. Xiao Bei consoled. To her, there was nothing to be afraid of. The only thing she was worried about was the disappointed expression on her brother and sister's face. However, she had never seen her brother and sister disappointed in her before. Even if she did something wrong, her brother and sister would still be very happy. The boy took a deep breath and closed his eyes to calm himself down. Only then did he manage to control his trembling hand and write on the paper. The real emperor, live a long life and never die. There was 100 in front of the 10,000 character, but the boy had drawn a slash to indicate that the character he wrote wrongly didn't count. After he finished writing, the boy raised his head and looked at Li Longji worriedly before he even put down the brush. Li Longji was stunned. He had thought about many things, but he didn't expect the boy to write these few words. He thought that the boy would write something like, "The country will last forever." If it was Xiao Yuan who wrote it, he would probably write a magnificent essay. However, these few simple words left him speechless. This is the real emperor. It's not fake, right, Uncle Emperor? Xiao Bei said to Li Longji as she blew on the paper, trying to dry the ink. That's not what I meant. What I meant was I was thinking of a good emperor. I don't know about other emperors. I haven't seen the previous emperors, but the current one is good. The boy hurriedly explained. Good words. Reward. Li Longji personally picked up the paper and blew on it. After it was dry, He carefully rolled it up and stuffed it into his clothes. To him, eggs and tigers couldn't compare to a few words written by a child. The child didn't have time to prepare and wrote whatever came to his mind. To be able to obtain the approval of a child was the best gift. Someone immediately brought over a large pile of things and placed them in front of the boy. Li Longji also began to chat with the boy, asking about his family, his studies, and so on. Zhang Xiaobao watched from afar. He turned to Wang Wan and whispered, "Do you see that? This is true glory. It's more than 2 times better than the emperor of your time. Would the commoners care whether the emperor of your time died or not? You can find a random child and ask them what they want to say to the emperor. They definitely won't say that they hope that the emperor will never die. Aren't you with me? It's different. It's an imperial system now, and we weren't one back then. Otherwise, there would be people who care about us as well." Wang Wan glared at Zhang Xiaobao. "Don't lie to yourself. If the emperor of our time died, would there be anyone to send him off on the streets? Furthermore, it was an era where one's ashes didn't even dare to write their real names. Could it be that old Zhou was the emperor of an imperial country? Of course it's not his fault. Everyone lives for their own ideals. Some people's ideals are just to reach the top, while others want to do something for the commoners. I feel that I'm more noble in comparison." Zhang Xiaobao curled his lips. At this moment, he truly felt that Li Longji was worthy of respect. "Then what do you mean by that?" Wang Wan asked. "What I mean is that we have to make little Li's life more comfortable in the future. If he wants to travel, we have to support him, let alone playing in the Great Tang. Even if he wants to go to South America, we have to find a way to satisfy him. We have to constantly use various methods to sing his praises. On the day he dies, we have to build a huge grave for him and write down the events of his life. For example, when he goes to a place and someone writes a piece of calligraphy for him and gives him 2 eggs. One is salty, the other is bland. This will make the future emperor feel pressured. Eggs aren't that delicious," Zhang Xiaobao said to Wang Wan sternly. However, his words were not serious. What did he mean by a huge grave? "I think you're just salty. South America? Do you want to take him to the moon for a spin and feel the temperature and environment there?" Wang Wan rolled her eyes at Zhang Xiaobao and said, "That's fine too. I want to go there too. I want to bring back 2 stones and sell them for a lot of money." While Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were bickering, Li Longji had finished talking to the boy. He praised him a few more times and seemed very happy. He encouraged the boy to study hard so that he could do more things after learning the skills. Turning his head, Li Longji waved at Zhang Xiaobao and called him over. With a teaching look he said, "Military Commander Zhang, you have accepted other people's things. You should at least show some appreciation. I've accepted it and rewarded it. What about you? Using you to be a good person?" Zhang Xiaobao muttered in his heart. However, on the surface he said respectfully, "Yes, Your Majesty, this subject understands. These 2 bears are very rare. This subject will definitely take good care of them. Right now, this subject is penniless and only has a small portion of corn. I plan to make popcorn for Patrol Inspector Zhang. Why don't I take it out and make popcorn for them? Your Majesty, what do you think? This subject is very comforted. Quickly go and get it," Li Longji ordered sternly. "Yes, this subject will go and get it right away." Zhang Xiaobao went back to look for the corn. "Your Majesty, we don't want any benefits. We are willing to give them to Xiaobao and Cuckoo," the boy's father said to Li Longji embarrassedly. He didn't care at all that the 2 of them were putting on a show. Who in Great Tang didn't know what was going on between the emperor, Xiaobao, and Cuckoo. Therefore he directly called Zhang Xiaobao, and Cuckoo instead of Military Commander Zhang. It seemed too distant. Li Longji was depressed. He had put on a show for nothing. Seeing that the other party didn't seem to want it, he lowered his voice and said, "How could Xiaobao give you popcorn? That thing is gone after you eat it. Xiaobao only said that he was giving you some corn seeds. You can find a place to plant them. When they mature, there will be more seeds. You can plant them yourself or sell them. They are very valuable. If Xiaobao really said that he was giving you some seeds, what would other people think? There are too few corn seeds in Great Tang. Many officials don't have any at home. If he said that he was giving popcorn, no one would say anything. Understand? When Li Longji was speaking, he didn't care about his identity as the emperor and winked at the other party. This person was stunned. Then he nodded happily and said in a low voice, "Understood. Xiao Bao is really smart. Thank you, Your Majesty. There's no need to thank me. After all, I am very happy that you are giving me something." Li Longji's voice was very loud. When Zhang Xiaobao, who had returned with the seeds, heard this, he knew what Li Longji meant. He reckoned that in the future, there would be commoners who would start giving Li Longji things. Too stingy calculating with commoners. Chapter 1107. Just as Zhang Xiaobao had guessed, 2 days later, when the procession passed by another village, the villagers came to deliver things, including a gift for the emperor. 2 hens, which were still laying eggs, were held in the hands of the villagers and were cooing. Compared to the gifts given to Zhang Xiaobao and his family, the number of gifts was much less. It should be because the villagers felt that the emperor could not eat too much, so the emperor ate better food than the ones given to him. Unlike Xiaobao and Cuckoo, the emperor was thrifty and used the money he saved to give to the people. Regarding this, Li Longji was quite satisfied. It was a little less, but it could be considered an improvement. It was better than nothing. He happily returned a bolt of silk to the villagers, which was worth enough to buy 100 hens. He ordered someone to bring 2 hens, and called for Zhang Xiaobao. He said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Xiaobao, then go. I want to eat chicken stewed with mushrooms tonight. Add more potatoes." "This is a hen, not a chicken. It's okay to give it to my mother. It's good for her body," Zhang Xiaobao corrected him. "It's a small hen. Haven't you seen a bigger hen?" Li Longji stared at him. "I have. Okay, I'll cook. Don't blame me if you eat too much. The potatoes are not good potatoes. They have already sprouted. I originally planned to give them to people who need them. I'll dig up the place where they sprouted and find a nearby village to plant them. The rest of the place is for eating." Zhang Xiaobao took the 2 hens, who did not know what kind of fate they would face. After leaving these words, he turned around and cleaned up. In his heart, he was cursing. Eating chicken stewed with mushrooms on such a hot day, this is a northeastern dish, okay? Eating it in the winter is to nourish the body. If I put a ginseng in it, it will make your nose bleed. Li Longji was very knowledgeable. He called out to Zhang Xiaobao's departing figure, "Don't put anything else in it for me. I believe in your skills. I believe that the taste of the potatoes will not be bad." "Torment me? Go ahead and torment me." Zhang Xiaobao continued to curse in his heart. Sprouted potatoes were not easy to cook. There was not enough flour, and the hens needed to be stewed for a long time. He could not put the potatoes together with the hens. Otherwise, the potatoes would be gone. Zhang Xiaobao could only increase the process. First, he steamed the potatoes. When the hens were almost cooked, he put the potatoes in. Hens were oily, and when cleaning them, they had to remove the oily parts. Normally, when eating in the Northeast, they would eat oily meat, just like how Russians like to eat butter to resist the cold. During dinner, Li Longji invited Empress Wang, Wu Huifei, and the 11 children to taste the fruits of his victory. When Xiaobei saw the stew, she looked at the cool clothes she was wearing. Her eyes widened, and she turned her head to look for her brother. What she meant was, "Brother, what are you trying to do? Eat his sister to death." Pan Er and her brother smelled the strong aroma. It was so strong that they felt disgusted. They also tried their best to hide back. Their eyes were filled with fear. Fortunately, Zhang Xiaobao was well prepared. Other than a large pot of stewed chicken, the rest were cold plates. There were also wild vegetables that he asked people to dig up. He blanched them and dipped them in bean sauce to balance the chicken. When Li Longji saw the vegetables, he also found it difficult to swallow. After hesitating for a moment, he still picked up a piece of meat and said, "Eat, it's good food. Eat all of it." After eating a mouthful, he did not want to eat a second mouthful. It was already hot and stuffy, so eating big mouthfuls of meat was a test for people. After taking another bite of the potatoes, Li Longji saw that the other people did not touch the meat in their plates. He muttered to himself, "Usually the people here can't eat pine mushrooms, right? Why don't we share it with the people and send it over?" They did not eat much of the food in the pot. Moreover, not everyone reached out their chopsticks at the same time. They did not salivate, so it was reasonable for the emperor to give it to them. "Take it away and send it to the back. I'll cook 2 more dishes." Zhang Xiaobao already knew that the people could not eat, and they usually did not lack meat. "No need. The cold dishes are the same. The main dishes you prepared are." Li Longji did not want to continue tormenting Zhang Xiaobao, so he looked at the cold plates on the table and asked for the main dishes. "Noodles with water, or rice with water?" Zhang Xiaobao asked. Without waiting for the others to answer, he immediately ordered people to prepare. Soon the rice with water was served. Only then did the little guys start to eat. When the people were eating, the bodyguards and other people also took turns to eat and rest. When the stewed food was sent to the people, it was not cold yet. The people were not giving it away, but taking the opportunity to repair the road. The road Li Longji walked on was a simple road built by the construction team in front. The quality was not up to standard. When the main team passed by, the road behind them was trampled until it was uneven. Some of the teams at the back were in charge of filling the holes. The people were also helping at the back. They found stones to press down the road. Even if it was a simple road, they could not build it themselves. Now that the road was solid, they were not afraid even if it was raining. At most, they would just fill in some places with stones. In the future, even if the others did not build the road for them, they could always use it themselves. Under the premise that they did not need to use the national treasury and the money of the local people, it was not a bad thing for the emperor to go on an inspection tour. After dinner, Zhang Xiaobao, who was guarding the ice basin and planning to discuss matters with Wang Wan, received a message from Hangzhou. It was a message from his mother, the Jiang Wang clan. The message seemed ordinary. It only asked about the children's journey and how their father was doing. However, Zhang Xiaobao understood what his mother was trying to say when he read the last part of the message. The last sentence was that when they arrived at Luzhou, he should help them greet the people of Luzhou. It would be best if he could draw the scenery and bring it back to look at. "Wife, I have something to tell you." Zhang Xiaobao put down the message and said to Wang Wan, who was looking at him. Wang Wan did not listen to Zhang Xiaobao. She snatched the paper and quickly skimmed through it. Then she said, "You don't have to say anything. My mother and your mother want to go to Luzhou. If they want to go, just go. Why do you have to ask? Who can control them? I guess they're afraid of affecting us. Apart from parents who abuse their children and even kill them, all parents in the world are the same. I don't mean if they want to go or not. I mean how they want to go." Zhang Xiaobao tapped his face with his finger. Wang Wan had not seen Zhang Xiaobao do this for a long time. Only when he was scheming against others would Zhang Xiaobao do this habitual action. "What are you trying to do? Our mothers are going to Luzhou. Are you going to scheme against them too?" "I'm not scheming against them. I'm scheming against others. Think about it. Our mother can't travel by land like us. She has to take a boat. It's faster and more stable than the current road conditions." However, Wang Wan did not give Zhang Xiaobao a chance to show off. She asked directly, "Don't just come and go like that. If you have something to say, say it. Let's take a boat. What are you going to do?" Zhang Xiaobao choked on his words. He cleared his throat and said, "I'm not going to use them. I'm going to protect them. Our mother and the others are going to take a boat. No matter how stable it is, there's a possibility that something might go wrong. I won't be at ease if I don't send someone to protect them." Wang Wan did not say anything. She lowered her head and continued reading the information on the paper. She seemed to be studying her mother-in-law's ability to organize her words. At the very least, she was better than her mother. If her mother was the one who told her the news, she would have directly mentioned Luzhou. She would not have been tactful enough. Zhang Xiaobao waited for a while. When he saw Wang Wan was not cooperating with him, he had no choice but to continue. "Speaking of protection, how can I just tell you how many people I'm going to send?" It doesn't make a difference whether I tell you or not, right? Wang Wan read the information again. Zhang Xiaobao said, so I've come up with an idea. Take a guess. What a bad idea. Are you going to tell me or not? If you're not going to tell me, I'm going to sleep. I'm sleepy. Wang Wan yawned. My idea is to send a group of people from other places. Take a guess. Forget it. There's no need for you to guess. I'm going to ask Lu Zhou to deploy a fleet of gunboats to meet them. Our mother can't go to Lu Zhou empty-handed. We should prepare more gifts, such as rice and noodles from other places and other local specialties. Therefore, a large number of resources have to be gathered at Jiangnan's east as soon as possible. Our logistics department has to be mobilized as well. We have to be fast. Otherwise, by the time we reach Lu Zhou, my mother and your mother will still be in Hangzhou. We might as well not go there, right? When Zhang Xiaobao saw that Wang Wan did not have a tacit understanding with him, or rather, she knew him too well, he could only think of ways to attract her with his words. He wanted to show his cleverness in front of his wife. Wang Wan finally played along. She asked, is there anything else? Yes. Zhang Xiaobao nodded happily. Lu Zhou, I think we need things from Jiangxi Province, Lingnan Province, and Northern Hebei Province the most. It'll take too long to transport from the other two places. Northern Hebei Province is directly connected to the sea. What do you think of transporting things from there? Zhang Xiaobao acted as though he was concerned about Lu Zhou as he asked for his opinion. Wang Wan and Wei Wei smiled. All right. What do you think we can give them in the northeast? Ginseng? Mink fur? Wula grass? Deer antler? Are you worried that Lu Zhou's people will be cold? The cold wind in summer is bone-chilling. Should we send them tonics? Why don't you make chicken stew with mushrooms for them? I'm sure they'll be very happy. Zhang Xiaobao was surprised. They'll be happy. After all, I made it myself. You said not to send them anything for the time being. There are hazelnuts and pine nuts in the northeast. We picked a lot of them last year. Although it's not the season yet, we can send people to pick them up. Maybe we'll be surprised. The local people are busy now, and it's not good to ask them to work. Let's send the army. The local army has been training. What do you think of transferring troops from Yu Province in the southern part of Hebei Province? What do you think? Gather some large transport ships in Henan Province and prepare some goods. When the time comes, we can ship them together. Maybe we can earn back the money we spent. Also, tell the Japanese that we won't borrow the steam engine-armed ships we rented to them for the time being. They can help protect the transport team at sea. What do you think? Wang Wan finally heard something wrong in Zhang Xiaobao's words. She asked in surprise. Do you really plan to do that? Do you want to transfer tens of thousands of soldiers from Tubo's army to Henan Province, which is Shandong Province, and say that it's a cross-regional joint training exercise? Don't do that. I really plan to help Mother travel and give Lu Zhou some benefits. Don't get me wrong, Zhang Xiaobao said seriously. I don't believe you. I didn't get you wrong, but you want to make others misunderstand. You want to kill two birds with one stone, don't you? No wonder you did that little trick just now. It turns out that you want to take advantage of our mother's trip. If my mother knows about it, she'll definitely hate you. What kind of son-in-law are you talking about? Wang Wan rolled her eyes at Zhang Xiaobao. Where can you find a son-in-law like me? Don't be in a hurry to criticize me. Help me perfect it. Come on, when you go to bed later, I'll tell you the story of the wolf and the lamb. Zhang Xiaobao said without blushing. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.